Hello, everyone. We'll get started in 2 minutes. Raising their hand. Oh, Tommy, I think Bethany needs to be, or
Diego, I would start considering the amount of appointments we have today.
okay, thank you. Did you promote? Yes, okay. Hello, everyone. I call this meeting to order today on Tuesday, August 5th at 7:03 p.m. Um, are there any amendments to be made to today's agenda? Yes, Bethany.
Hi, can I please strike contingency allocations, please? Thank you.
Chris Espino?
Hello, may I please strike travel grant mini fund and academic success referendum fund applications, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Nico?
Everyone, can I please strike Bruin card grant and laundry grant allocations, please?
Thank you. Hannah?
Hey, could I please strike SWC programming fund allocations? Thanks.
Thank you. Sherry?
Hi, can I please strike bag allocations?
Thank you. Edison?
Hi, could I strike SFS allocations? Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, on behalf of Joy?
Can we please strike TGIF allocations?
Thank you. Yes, Tommy? Wait, before Tommy, I just want to confirm if Divine, you will be presenting ARC allocations. If not, we can strike that. Yes, Divine.
Hi, can we please strike art allocations?
Thank you. Okay.
All right, am I free to go with it?
Yes, go ahead. And then if you want to ask for clarification, because I think you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, Lorelai, am I by chance, I have to add a couple of appointments. Am I able to motion them all at once, or do I have to do them each individually?
Just as long as you say all of the positions and the person that is being appointed within one motion, I think it's fine, but it has to be clear that it's each individual and that position that they're seeking to be appointed for.
All right, sounds good. And for my first motion, I would like to motion an addition of four appointments to the agenda. Emily Gomez, the ASUCLA, to the ASUCLA Communications Board as one. Um, Dante Ray for TGIF as two. Ria Singh to the Community Service Mini Fund as three. And Jude Abu Hijle to the Judicial Board as four. All as appointments to be heard today.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Tommy motions, Hiram seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 12 to 0, that is approved. I think Bethany, you mentioned something in the chat. Tommy, um, there will be capital allocations.
Okay, 1 second. Capital programming or contingency?
Bethany?
It will be capital contingency allocations.
All right, I also have another motion to add A letter concerning recent cuts to federal research funding addressed to Gavin Newsom on the agenda.
Tommy, before I interrupt you, Jessica, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I just had a quick question to clarify. There shouldn't be any funding allocations because our fiscal year is currently closed and the new budget is not available yet. So I just wanted to confirm what the capital contingency allocations were for.
Yeah, these are for Lorelai. I just saw a private message from her too. They're for the Financial Supports Commission and Middle Eastern Student Association. And I believe they do run over the summer, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so they do run over the summer. However, capital contingency is officially closed. The last funding cycle was in the last council term. And basically capital contingency is funded by your carryover. So you have that fund available once carryover comes forward. However, once the rec deadline passes and we've closed the fiscal year, we cannot have any more funding allocations because essentially that budget cycle is closed. So unfortunately for the two groups, they'll have to wait until capital contingency reopens for the 25-26 fiscal year.
Okay,
So
sounds good.
yeah, sorry for the
Talk
confusion.
to
We can
them.
chat offline if anything, if you want to chat more about it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Bethany. Tommy, if you want to proceed with your motion.
But do you want me to restrike those?
Yes.
Right, and then motion to add a letter concerning recent cuts to federal research funding addressed to Governor Gavin Newsom to the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tommy motions from seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. Daniel, for clarification, what vote is that?
Sorry, I forgot to lower my hand. It was a yes.
Okay, no worries, thank you. With a vote to 12 to 0, that is approved. Tommy's letter is added to our agenda. Are there any other amendments?
Yes, I have two more. Motion to add the charter for the Oversight Committee for USAC approval to the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tommy motions, Hannah seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 12 to 0, that is approved. Yes, Lorelai? Your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna suggest, sorry, now that you've already motioned, but I was just gonna suggest when it comes to the charter, there's some things that need to be clarified. So I don't know if that's something that should be tabled. This was a discussion that me and Jessica had had. Just because there's some like issues of what USAC has oversight of and like what can and can't be done and like seeing if that's something that should happen offline or just to like before we present it. Jessica, if you have anything else to say about that, I know that they just motioned.
Yes, my apologies. I was trying to Teams chat Beverly to have her follow up with Bethany about funding, but yes, I would recommend tabling I mean, if you want to have a discussion, I think y'all can have a discussion about it, but some of the points of concern that I had with the charter specifically were just regarding the jurisdiction of this new body that's being created versus USAC's jurisdiction versus some things that seem like they are more in JBoard's lane. And so I think that's really important to clarify before you move forward with a document that's going to govern how this new entity is going to work and operate. And there were also some questions just about some of the terms that were used regarding different reports and different issuing findings and access to records that I don't think are within the scope of this body. So yeah, if there's an opportunity to workshop it more, it's not a at this point in time because we just are entering the new fiscal and the budget's not actually live and active yet. There's no work necessarily to be done by this body, so I think it's worth putting more time into really fleshing out the charter and making sure it's good to go forward.
Yeah, we can table it till next meeting.
Sounds
Right.
great.
With
Are there
that,
any other amendments?
I have one more. Motion for executive session on the topic of university research and student organizations on campus.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 12 to 0 to 0, that executive session is approved to be on our agenda today. Is there any other final amendments to be made? If not, can we get a motion to confirm today's agenda, please? Yes, sir.
Motion to approve the August 5th, 2025 USAC agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Was that
Jaya.
yeah, perfect. Here are motions, Jaya seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 12 to 0 to 0, our agenda for August 5th is approved. With that, we'll move on to the approval of our previous meeting minutes. If there is no opposition, if there is, please raise your hand. Seeing that there are none, we will move on to public comments. I now open public comment today at 7:16 p.m. Is there anybody here today for public comment? Yes. Tommy, whenever you can open up the 2-minute timer, and then I'll just share community guidelines.
Yep.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, please use respectful language. And you have 2 minutes to be reserved to yourself. And public comment is only open to members of the Undergraduate Student Association. Whenever you're ready, I believe, yes, Eli, you can start your public comment.
Sorry, before we start the timer, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so starting my time. Hi, everyone. My name is Eli Sepulveda, and I am the Chief Justice for the 2025-2026 academic school year. And I'm going to be talking a bit fast, so I am going to ask that you please take notes for your own personal records. I have 3 points I want to cover with you all today. The first is about the Judicial Board and our presence as a resource on campus for you and the student body. First, we're a resource for students to submit appeals and petitions. We're one of the only ways for students to actually communicate with USAC and overturn any decisions that they feel may have been unconstitutional. It is our job to rule on those. And additionally, we support you because we can provide comment on feedback on whether actions you take are constitutional and help clarify some of the many bylaws that you have in your 100 plus page document. This past year, we handled the high profile Brandon v. Verdugo case that no administrative body on this campus wanted to touch, and from which we've been answering public record requests this summer. So this leads me to my second point about transparency in USAC. You can imagine my surprise when we found out within this past week that our stipends are being cut yet again for the second consecutive year in a row. And this is particularly concerning given that USAC's budget has actually increased from last year to this year. Now, I'm well aware that USAC has its own budgetary constraints. However, it's particularly concerning because there was no way for any USAC bodies, not just the judicial board, to actually see a proposed budget and anticipate when or how we could make comments or explain our fiscal needs year on year. And this especially leads me to my third point about transparency to the student body. The student body pays your $14,000 plus stipends. Many of you ran campaigns about transparency. Gutting a board that is one of the only ways for the student body to hold USAC accountable, especially now, is deeply concerning. And I ask that you consider this as you move forward throughout this school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Eli. Seeing as public comment is not a period for back and forth, we'll plan on taking this offline. Are there any other members of the association that would like to give public comment today? Seeing as there is none, thank you, Tommy. I close public comment today at 7:19 p.m. Seeing as we have no funding to allocate, we'll move on to appointments. We'll begin with Jude. Yes, Tommy.
Natalie Kim, I actually gave her permission to go first due to personal reasons, so she'll be going first.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so seeing as that, we'll begin our appointments. As you may know, we have a very lengthy appointment timeline today. I think 19, 18. But however, please take your time in asking questions to all applicants, and feel free to take as much time as you need to engage with these appointees. So with that said, we'll begin with Natalie. Tell me, is she here?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, and then just to confirm, for all the appointments, the way this will work is you have a 1 minute opening periods, 1 minute opening period to give your opening statement, sorry. And then you will be given 15 minutes for question and answers from the council, where council members will be able to ask you any questions. After that, you'll be given a 1 minute closing period statement for your statement. And then after that, council will have deliberations, and then we will motion for a vote. With that said, Natalie, you may begin your 1 minute opening statement.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Kim and I use pronouns she, her. I'm going to be a rising fourth year and I double major currently in computational biology and political science, and today I'm applying for the Community Activities Committee or CAC position. And something I wanted to talk about briefly was prior to applying to this position, I did have 2 years of experience as an undergraduate representative for this position. However, I hope to expand beyond the experience that I had these past 2 years by creating more like communication channels with the current organizations that are present within CAC, and by doing so also help transition old members to new board members for the upcoming year, because that's something that I realized was lacking in this past year, and also provide more transparency with funding for this upcoming year, which is why I hope that I can be a good fit for this position. Thank you.
Thank you. I can begin with our first question. Let me see. How do you interpret the mission of the Community Activities Committee, and what does serving economically and socially disadvantaged communities mean to you in practice?
Yeah, so during my past 2 years of experience, my interpretation of the committee's purpose is to not only serve the on-campus organizations, especially like community service organizations, but also to just be there as like a resource. Our main part of our work is to allocate funding for organizations, especially with their community service projects. And we have big funding throughout the year, like the regular as well as our minis. But also something else that members do is to become liaisons for the organization. So giving individual attention to each organization and ensuring that they have like the resources that they need. If they have any questions that they can reach to us, which because we're the bridge between them as well as to our own board. So I think that's an important component, and sometimes it's overlooked because as liaisons that we have 13 organizations that we're taking care of, at least 13 organizations. So just being able to like emphasize that individual attention, as well as just being able to provide them resources because oftentimes the allocations from CAC may not be enough for organizations. So yeah, just giving them resources like alternative resources on campus that they can turn to as well.
Tommy, can I ask for clarification? She is being appointed, or she's being voted on to be appointed for the Community Activities Committee or CS Mini Fund?
Let me see. I want to say I had her down for Community Activities Committee, but I could be wrong.
Can you double check, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's Community Activities Committee.
Okay, Natalie, I just want to confirm with you because I know you mentioned CSC.
Oh, sorry, I meant CAC. I think it didn't go through.
Okay,
Yeah.
no worries. Just confirming that this is for the Community Activities Committee. Okay. We can fix the time later. Hiram?
Hi, Natalie. Thanks for being with us today. I just wanted to know, since you have 2 years serving on the Community Activities Committee, what are some things that you started within the last 2 years that you hope to continue on to this term?
Yeah, so during my first year, something that we started implementing with our funding allocations was ensuring that just to be fair with all the applications that if organizations didn't have like all the components that they needed, such as like signatures or updated letters of support from their community partners, then we started deducting points, and we also were transparent to the organizations, letting them know that you have to be very thorough with your application and have to make sure that all the components are updated. So that's something that we started my first year as a board member. And I think something alongside with that was not only just deductions, but we also ensured that it was very clear, like that communication was sent through. So personally, like as a liaison to my organizations, like that's something that I emphasized. My second year, so this past year, something that I realized was lacking on my own part from my first year was the individual attention with the organizations. So because there's so many organizations this past year, I try to do more quarterly check-ins with each organization just because we also do mini applications each quarter. So that's something that I try to continuously do, and most organizations do meet like or communicate via email. So that's something that I was trying to promote more personally. And this yeah, so this upcoming year, if I am appointed again, that's something that I do want to continue the communication component, but also just expanding on that. I think something that I realized yet again is while continuous communication is key, there's also still the bridge between the new board members and old board members and new board members. So just that transition period. So that's something that I want to help more with the organizations this year as a liaison, just to ensure that there's a more smooth transition and that they understand all components of the application and how they can, maximize their resources.
Thank you, Natalie. Are there any other questions for Natalie? I have another one. The CAC is responsible for overseeing use of student fees. How would you uphold transparency and accountability in this role?
Sorry, can you clarify the first part? Did you say student fees?
Yes, student fees.
Oh, okay. So to my understanding of how we are transparent, well, I think as a board member this year that this is something that we implemented. So for every allocation or just like fees or anything that requires some sort of transaction, we make it very clear after deliberating within our own board to the organizations like the reason for our decisions or yeah, why something came to that conclusion. So we are very clear with our notes, and also we make sure to inform their sole advisor so that the advisor can also be aware, so that like we're informed, they're informed as well as their advisor, so that there's like a three-way fluid communication. Again, I think also something else that we do is that that's the reason why liaisons are also there, to kind of inform yet again if there has been a lack of communication or if something was missing in between. So that's something else that we emphasize, and that's something that I definitely wish to continue in this upcoming year as well.
Thank you so much. Is there any other council member that would like to give Natalie questions? Seeing as there are none, we can close this question and answer period. Natalie, whenever you're ready, you can start your 1 minute closing statement.
So thank you for taking the time to interview me today. I think something that I wanted to emphasize in my interview was not only my prior experience, but also using that prior experience to kind of come in with like a renewed mindset of like what is lacking and what is still missing with the CAC role in terms of being the bridge with to the organization. So again, something that I want to emphasize again is this upcoming year, I hope to continue having conversations with the organizations individually as a liaison, but also just to be more transparent and fluid, be able to like help them to transition from their new old board to their new boards at the end of the year, but also continuing communications throughout the year to ensure that with budget cuts or with deductions that they are able to receive the maximum amount of funding allocations for each organization, and to ensure that there's equity or just equal distributions across all the organizations. So thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. We will now begin our council deliberations period. Council, if you have any questions, please raise your hands. Or if you have any comments, please raise your hands.
Diego Arc.
About ARC, yeah.
Not ARC being forgotten.
I know, right?
Anyways, to give the ARC statement, ARC believes that Natalie is an incredibly qualified candidate, being in the Community Activities Committee, say that 3 times fast. For the past 2 years, Natalie presented a strong understanding of what this position entails and expressed that she hopes to focus on transparency and building more connections if reappointed. With a 4-0 vote, ARC strongly recommends Natalie for reappointment.
Thank you, Aram. Are there any council deliberations? Seeing as there are none, can we please motion for a vote? Yes, Aram?
Motion to appoint Natalie Kim to the Community Activities Committee for the 2025 to 2026 academic year.
Is there a second?
A second.
Your motions, Jaya seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 12-0, Natalie Kim is approved to the Community Activities Committee for the academic year of 2025-2026.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Natalie. We will now be moving on to Jude, Tommy. Jude, whenever you're ready, please you can start your 1 minute opening statement.
Sounds good. Hi everyone, my name is Judah Hijle, and I am applying for the position of an Associate Justice on Judicial Board. I am deeply committed to fairness, accountability, and making sure our student government lives up to the values it promotes, and that's why I am applying today. Over the past 2 years, I have worked under Gen Rep 3 office as well as multiple election campaigns, and I've seen firsthand how important the role of the Judicial Board is in representing our wide student body. JBoard not only protects the integrity of our student government, but also ensures that every student gets a fair process. These are the types of values I want to uphold. I understand that the role of Judicial Board requires a high level of neutrality, consistency, and trust, and I'm ready to bring that as a Judicial Board member. Thank you.
Thank you, Jude. We will now be moving on to our 15-minute question and answer period. I'll begin first with my first question. What does impartiality mean to you, and how would you maintain it when reviewing cases involving your peers or student orgs you're familiar with, or any that you have personal disagreements with?
Yes, so I think impartiality means just upholding that really strong sense of neutrality and making sure that you're aware of your biases and prejudices that you may hold towards any student group or any issue at hand, and being aware that although you may hold that personal opinion, you're here as a J board member to vote for an entire student body and to represent a wide, diverse student body. So impartiality just means making sure that you're always taking a look at the evidence at hand and considering the people you are representing. I think also just maintaining consistency to what you hold close to your heart and the values that you hold, and making sure that you aren't you hold a strong sense of responsibility and always consider every appeal with genuine thoughtfulness and an open mind always. Yeah.
Thank you. And I have a second question for you. How would you approach reviewing a petition or complaint that has strong emotional and political implications for the campus?
Yes. So I think I would approach it the same way I would approach any other petition, um, with, again, that same sense of a genuine open mind and thoughtfulness, and considering just with an extra emphasis that your decision and your vote is going to have a wider impact on every single student. Also understanding that although this is a public vote and that, people are going to be aware of your opinion, not to let that shape you or influence you in any sort of way is going to be really important when making any sort of decision like that. I think it's also really important to make sure that you are considering always both sides, no matter what side you personally stand on, and just approaching every topic or petition with neutrality is going to be a really big important job. That's all.
Thank you. No, I'll open it up to the other council members. I encourage you all to please ask questions, seeing as this is one of the third independent branches of USAC or of the USA. Are there any questions for Jude? Seeing as there are none, we will close our 15-minute question and answer. Okay.
All right. Hi, Jude. I know in your ARC interview you mentioned the importance of rulings setting precedent for future justices. Um, I wanted you to go into a bit more kind of explanation as to your thought process. If you were to be appointed as a justice, how you will strike a balance between using previous rulings while also kind of bringing in your own unique perspectives and impartiality to the position.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I think what I kind of explained in my ARC interview is that what we're doing today, we get to set the precedent for years to come. And so that's the type of long-lasting impact this position holds for sure. But I also mentioned how times are changing and that the beauty of our Constitution and the J board is that we get to make amendments and change certain types of cases and our votes. So I think it's really important to approach every every petition or case with the perspective of thinking now and thinking into the future, not to the past, if that makes sense. Always considering the type of students you're representing, always considering how this is going to have a long-lasting impact on people years to come is going to be really, really important. I also think bringing new perspective as a person of not only color, but just a unique experience, the unique experiences I hold and values I hold will shed more light onto different cases and topics. And I hope that with that new perspective, I get to represent more students at UCLA and make their voices heard throughout student government. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Hiram?
Hi, Jude. Thanks for joining us today. I also noticed that during ARC, you stated that you hope to increase transparency with the student body by advertising what JBoard does and showing that you're serious about the the complaints that students make. Sorry, excuse me. So I'm wondering what tangible steps you would take to ensure that there is that line of transparency. I'm just looking for a little clarification.
Yeah. So I think I that question kind of connected to the fact that like J-Board doesn't really get to hear that many cases, um, despite the fact that like we have so many campus complaints. I feel like within the student body at least. And so just like making sure that like students know that they have what the appeal process looks like, what the petition process looks like, and making sure that they know what rights they have as students, how they can go about these processes and make sure their voices are heard. Like mentioned previously in this meeting, JBoard really is one of the only avenues for a student to see direct change throughout USAC. And so I think if a student understands that this process is very transparent in the way that we publish all of our cases online, everything is made aware, what we are considering, how we are going, like what's our timeline, making sure they understand who will be voting, how these people who are making the decisions got voted in. Just this overall process in ensuring trust between the student and the student government adds to the transparency and allows students to feel more comfortable coming to JBoard to make their complaints and petitions heard, so they can see the change they want to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Jude. Are there any other questions? Last call. Seeing as there are none, we'll move on to Jude's 1-minute closing statement.
I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to interview me today. I wanted to emphasize again that throughout my previous work experience within USAC, I've seen firsthand how important the role of Judicial Board is in representing our wide and diverse student body. JBoard really is here to protect the integrity of our student government, but to ensure that every student gets a fair process, making sure their voice is heard. I understand that this role really requires not only impartiality, but neutrality, consistency, and ensuring that you as a JBoard member are cultivating trust between you and the student body is going to be really important to making sure that the work you do will have a long-lasting positive impact on our school. Thank you.
Thank you, Jude. We will now be moving on to ARC recommendations. Or ARC, yeah.
Me again. All right, so Jude presented a strong interview with ARC, showcasing a proper understanding of the inner workings of the Judicial Board. ARC was impressed with her plans to expand J Board's reach, even when they aren't hearing a case, by ensuring the Constitution is upheld through writing new amendments and consistently updating what is written. She noted that she hopes to increase transparency with the student body by advertising what J Board does. And ARC is excited to see her act on these promises. With a 3-0 vote, ARC recommends Jude for this appointment.
Thank you, Hiram. We will now be moving on to council deliberations. Does anybody have any comments regarding Jude's appointment today? Yes, Tommy.
Yeah, I would just like to say, like, Jude's interview really stood out. I can say probably, I can speak on behalf of ARC to all of us. Just the amount of depth she went into when answering the questions, but also having a really rich and nuanced understanding of the position, that we felt really made her stand out amongst other applicants. I can say with confidence that I think she would do an amazing job in this position. and have an impact in this role that lasts beyond the length of her term.
Thank you, Tommy. Are there any other deliberations from council member? Seeing as there are none, we will be moving on for a motion for a vote. Can someone please motion? Yes, Tommy.
I motion to appoint Jude Abu Hijle to the UCSA Judicial Board for the 2025-2026 and 2026-2027 academic year for a 2-year term.
Second.
Tommy motions, Hiram seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 12 to 0 to 0, that motion passes and Jude is approved to serve on the judicial board for a 2-year term. Congratulations, Jude.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now be moving on to our third appointment of the day, Kevin Avendano for the Community Activities Committee. Kevin, whenever you're ready, please begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hi. Before I start, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you. So to start, hi everyone. My name is Kevin Amadano. I use he/him pronouns, and I'm a rising sophomore majoring in business economics. A little bit more about me. I'm a first generation college student and the son of Mexican immigrants. And growing up, I've seen how opportunity isn't always about talent. I've seen some of the most deserving people I know miss out on really important opportunities because of the lack of access. And because of this, I've always tried to be part of the solution. In high school, I tutored immigrant students from Latin American countries. I've volunteered at food pantries serving unhoused families, and I've tried my best to continue these passions. And now here at UCLA, I serve as the funding director for the Grupo Estudiantil Oaxaqueño, where I help secure resources that allow Oaxacan students to find community, visibility, and belonging on campus. And I want to join the community activities committee because I know what it means to grow up underserved, and I want to make sure every student-led service program doing good in our communities has the support and funding it deserves.
Thank you, Kevin. We will now be moving on to a 15-minute question and answer period. I'll begin with my first 2 set of questions. Thank you. How do you interpret the mission of the Community Activities Committee, and what does serving economically and socially disadvantaged communities mean to you in practice?
Yeah, so it's my interpretation. The Community Activities Committee, we get funding, we get referendum funding, and it's up to us to allocate that funding to student organizations that work and do community service events that are primarily focused around socially and economically disadvantaged students. And what this sort of really means to me, I feel like because of my lived experiences and firsthand, I know how important this funding can be and what it means to a lot of these communities. And at at the core of the CAC values, it's about equity, it's about treating everyone the same and meeting people where they are. Thank you.
Was the
Yeah, the timer. Yeah, the
Okay.
timer
We
wasn't going.
apologize for that. And then I have a second question for you. The CAC is responsible for overseeing use of student fees. How would you uphold transparency and accountability in this role?
Yeah, so I feel like one of the biggest reasons we can hold accountability and transparency is communication. I believe it'll be key to communicate with both our peers and students where these fees are going, what they're being used for. And something else I believe is important is documentation. I think it's really important to document what exactly we're doing and ensure that this documentation is upheld and used properly. And I believe that by a combination of both the communication and documentation, we can do our best to uphold transparency and accountability within the committee.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from other council members? Final call. Seeing as there are none, we'll move on from our Q&A to our 1-minute closing statement. Kevin, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you all, thank you guys for your time and thoughtful questions. And I'm here because I really care about making sure that these student-led programs doing this hard work in our communities get the funding and support that they deserve and that they need to thrive. CAC represents sort of the bridge between vision and impact, and I want to be able to play a role in this and help make sure students and communities get all of the help that they deserve and they need. If appointed, I'll bring a deep respect for equity, strong sense of responsibility, and my lived understanding of why this work matters. And thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. We'll now be moving on to ARC recommendations.
Kevin brings a strong foundation in financial stewardship and community-centered work, grounded in his lived experience as a member of a working-class immigrant family. His commitment to equity, transparency, and addressing systemic injustice makes him well-equipped to thoughtfully allocate resources to off-campus service efforts that support historically underserved communities. With a vote of 4-0 to 0, ARC approves Kevin for the Community Activities Committee.
Thank you, Tommy. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. If there are any comments from council members, please raise your hand. Any council members? Seeing as there's none, we will be moving on to a motion for votes. Can someone please motion for a vote, please, for Kevin's appointment? Yes, Tommy.
I motion to appoint Kevin to the Community Activities Committee for a 1-year term for the 2025-2026 academic year.
Second.
Tommy motions, Hiram seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 11-0 to 0, that motion passes and Kevin Avendano is approved to the Community Activities Committee for the academic year of 2025-2026. Thank you, Kevin. We'll now move on to our next appointment, who is Joseph Awad for the Academic Senate Undergraduate Council. I'm sorry, Joseph, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hi, sorry, I didn't know how to mute. Okay, can you hear me okay?
Sound great.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Joseph. I'm a psychology major. A little about me is outside of class, I'd say, is that I try to stay sane by making sure that my time is devoted to being of service. So some of the things I'm most closely involved with are a nonprofit in San Francisco, which I'm on the board of, which gives legal and social services to LGBTQ immigrants. But more intimately, I'm really into research. Right now, I'm directing a peer mentorship program called START for 15 community college students, and to give them some much needed access to research experience and skills of now of all times. But back to this, I think I'm a good fit for this position because I bring in, I'd say, a vast amount of knowledge and experience in educational policymaking and governance. So before I transferred, I was a student appointee for the Curriculum Senate Committee and the student trustee for my community college district. And since I've been at UCLA, I've served both on APRC and the system-wide academic planning committee for UCOP. So I won't bore you with more, but I'm happy to take questions. And thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. We'll now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. Yes, Ram.
Well, I'll ask once the timer starts. Okay. Hi, Joseph. Thank you for joining us today. I was just wondering how your lived experience as a transfer student, also combined with your previous experiences in USAC and the Academic Senate and with START, have shaped your advocacy within the Academic Senate and how you will continue to advocate for transfer students alike within the Academic Senate.
Thank you. Well, I'd say I did not grow up like knowing how I would talk in a boardroom amongst people who have been doing their jobs longer than I've been alive, but it's definitely been a work in progress. I'd say succinctly, it's been a challenge, but I've come to realize that especially in our roles as students, really the one and honestly main thing that it boils down to is how much we can convince the people who actually hold a vote, which are the faculty members, that we are uh, good stewards of the student interest and that we're competent and that we kind of know what's going on. So with that, I try to bring like my knowledge, but also stay humble throughout the process because there's again so much that I don't know, and recognizing that I think is important. But my lived experiences definitely shape where I am right now and everything. But that sounds like such a redundant answer. But yeah, I care a lot about transfers, particularly. And for START, particularly, we have over 6 transfer students that are helping with the project themselves. So it's not just the community college students that we're helping, but also transfers and recent graduates who were transfers themselves. I will say, we'll use my time very briefly to give a shout out to Flo, who I saw on the agenda. I don't know if she went up already or not, but she was one of the board members who voted yes to give me money for START last year because she's on the board of SSCCC. So anyway, she's awesome, but that's besides the point. Sorry, I forgot the rest of the question, but I hope that answers it.
Thank you, Joseph. Yes, Rem again.
Sorry for these repeat questions. Going from your role on the Academic Program Review Committee last year to Undergraduate Council this year, how do you think that transition is going to go for you? Do you have any concerns or like what are some things you're looking forward to within UGC in particular?
Right. Well, I'm excited. It'll be different in the sense that APRC's scope and most of other committees that I've been on recently are much broader than just undergraduate education. But UGC is, yeah, it is with the undergraduate realm. I think most of yeah, most of the time I was on APRC, like the meetings were more so about how junior faculty feel and their relationships with more senior faculty, how departments recruits graduate students, which are definitely important conversations that impact undergraduates. But a big part of UGC, which is what drew me to this, is curriculum, which I think is, yeah, I'm really into curriculum. It's yeah, so it'll be, I think, more focused, and I'm excited about that.
Thank you, Joseph. Are there any other questions from council members for Joseph today? Seeing as there are none, we'll move on. Joseph, you can begin your 1-minute closing statement whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Okay. So I'll tell you what I bring in. What I can finally say is actually years of experience in previous roles that would directly correspond with output that I could bring into this role. What again, what drew me in is how relatively narrow in scope this mission and work of UGC is, and I have a soft spot for curriculum development, particularly. I mean, not, I've been involved with it, of course, as a student on the receiving end, but also as a student representative on committees that touch on it, and now as a TA for multiple classes since early January of this year. So I won't yap more. I know you have a lot of interviews, but I'll promise you I'll work hard and I'll stay authentic to this Joseph that you're hopefully appointing today. So anyways, please vote yes. Thank you. I'm doing heart signs with my hands, but I don't know if you see that. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Sorry. And now we'll move on to ARC recommendations. Not sure who has them.
I have it. Sorry, that was kind of funny. Joseph is the kind of student that embodies what we're looking for in the academic senate. He's unafraid, vocal, and ready to take charge and create space on behalf of his student body. ARC was impressed with his previous experience serving as the sole undergraduate student representative on the Academic Program Review Committee last school year and appreciated his willingness to branch out and try something new in the undergraduate council. With a 4-0 vote, ARC enthusiastically recommends Joseph for this appointment.
Thank you, Hiram. We will now be moving on to council member deliberations. If you have any comments, please raise your hand. Yes, Hiram.
Joseph, honestly, like I've been able to see firsthand how hard he works when I was in the Academic Affairs Commission last school year. And also this year, Joseph's in my office. So just getting to see how much commitment he has to other students and just uplifting the student body has been such a wonder. Like that's been the highlight of doing student government, being able to see kind of what power my peers have in these kind of positions. And I think that honestly, I think ARC agreed on it. Like undergraduate council is genuinely the most important academic senate committee. And I feel like Joseph has it in him to speak up and, actually stand his ground and voice his opinions, especially in spaces that aren't so receptive of student opinions. So I urge you guys to vote yes.
Thank you, Hiram. Are there any other deliberations from council? Seeing as there's none, we can close that and move on to a motion for a vote. Yes, Hiram.
Motion to appoint Joseph Awad to the undergraduate council for the 2025 to 2026 academic year for a one-year term.
I second.
Here are motions, Jaya seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 12-0, that motion passes, and Joseph Awad is approved to be on the Academic Senate Undergraduate Council. Congratulations, Joseph.
Thanks so much.
We'll now be moving on to our next candidate, Flo, for the Student Fee Advisory Committee, SFAC. Flo, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Flo Cadal. I use she, her, hers, siya pronouns. I'm a proud first-generation Filipino immigrant and community college transfer student. I'm also a non-traditional student studying labor studies and public affairs here at UCLA. Before transferring, I served as the Associated Student Government President at Santiago Canyon College, where I launched an initiative called Student Dollars Serving Students, a campaign to ensure our student fees directly funded programs students could see and feel in their daily lives. It was not just about budget, it was about building trust. I now serve on the board of directors for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, or SSCCC, where I help oversee statewide support and funding for all 116 colleges. That includes what Joseph mentioned earlier, to fund a research here at UCLA as well, centering equity and fiscal responsibility in every decision. I'm applying to SFAC because I live the weight of every dollars as a student, and I want to make sure student services fee truly reflects the student priorities.
Thank you so much, Flo. We'll now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. I'll start first. Why do you think it's important for students to have a say in how campus-based student service fees are spent?
Thank you for that wonderful question. I love that question, President Bolio, because the students should always be present in every decision making. Like we're all adults here. We should be part of every participatory governance that, our lives is at stake. As a student, we want to make sure that every student need is met in a way that we are paying for it. Like what I said, our student dollars should serve us and not just go into waste. And it should be used into the way that our student is not just happy, but it is equitable for everyone. We shouldn't be just providing to one niche, but to everybody, to every Bruin itself.
Thank you so much. I'll open up the floor for other council members. Are there any other questions from council members? Yes, Ram.
I just like asking this because it's fun, but how has your experience as a transfer student kind of shaped your leadership, and how will you take that into consideration when serving in SVAC?
Thank you, Harib. As a transfer student, I'm also a non-traditional student. I'm 37 years old now. Community college welcomed me. I'm gonna tell it to all of you. I started as a high school dropout. I went to community college to continue my education. Like we all undergo into life experiences, and I'm part of that community. And community college like build me not just to be who I am today, but it's actually like create a space for me to be brave into the spaces, especially participatory governance. My leadership across the statewide and like locally is not like something that I want to brag about, but it is something that I am proud of as a community college student. I want to empower transfer students here at UCLA that we have a voice, that we should have a voice in every spaces as well. And like we should be inclusive of others as well. I think as a transfer student, we should empower one another, and also we should empower the student as well who's coming from directly from high school. And that is what UCLA is all about, to welcome everyone that is with a Bruin heart. And the spirit of UCLA actually embedded not just in the transfer student itself, but also in every Bruin that come into like UCLA. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, Kale?
I know that you talked about how, in answering Diego's question, how student voices are important in under it, or their inputs are important, but what do you think about the insight that students have and the awareness that they have about where these fees go, and how would you improve that?
Um, I'll be honest, like when a student enter to UCLA, like we are given like a set of fees that we don't understand. Not everyone will research about it. But I think it boils down into an awareness. Like we have to make sure that students are engaged and at least like try our best to inform them, advertise what SFAC is about. Like I actually want to advocate for a committee hours where like SFAC will allot a time frame where us will be able to like be out in the open and explain to student what our fees are. And I think that is something that I want to promote as part of if I will be appointed into this committee. And I think that is very important for the student to know exactly where their fees goes, and yeah, and use it for them.
Thank you so much, Flo. Are there any other questions from council members? I'll ask another question. Are there any units currently funded by the student services fee that you feel could be better served students with additional support from SFAC, and why?
Um, Currently, I'm part of a program called AAP. I'm actually here at UCLA because of that. And I believe academic advancement is very important to every student here at UCLA, especially the marginalized community. That's one thing. And with the budget cut, let's be honest, like everyone is like facing like the fear that they might lose their job or in some sort or another. However, like to continue to advocate for student needs is very important. And one thing as well is I really want to emphasize into supporting the undocumented students on campus. They cannot work. And that is something that needs to be supported. Basically, the BRC, the Bruin Resource Center, where all the needs on campus, especially in that like niches, should be met. Funding should be like directly affect them, and we should continue to advocate and support for them.
Thank you so much, Flo. Any other questions from council today? Seeing as there's none, we'll move on to your 1-minute closing statement. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you again for the opportunity to share my story, my answer to your questions, and my life. Um, my North Star has always been this: students should see their dollars working for them. I have led that work on my campus through student-led budget initiatives and at the state level through SSCCC board, helping shape fiscal policies, being responsible that prioritize accountability, access, and equity. As someone who has personally faced financial hardship and systematic barriers, I know how deeply these decisions impact students' lives. I want to bring the same lens to SFAC, one that is rooted in listening first, being honest about the trade-offs, and pushing for budget that reflects that what students say they actually need. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Flo. We'll now be moving on to ARC recommendations.
As a first-generation non-traditional transfer student and regional affairs directors for the Region 8 and the SSCCC, Flo brings a unique and grounded perspective on how student fees should be used to create opportunity and access. With a deep belief that every dollar should work for the student, she aims to champion transparency, implement tools like meeting QR updates and hybrid town halls, and ensure that student voices, especially those of transfer and underserved populations, guide equitable funding decisions. ARC recommends Flow with a vote of 4 to 0 for the Chancellor's Student Fee Advisory Committee.
Thank you so much, Tommy. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. If you have any comments, please raise your hand. Yes, Hiram.
Hello, I actually got to meet Flo in person at New Student Orientation while I was volunteering, and she is genuinely like one of the smartest, most well-spoken, most like just everything. Flo is everything. And honestly, her ARC interview proved again that she is so qualified for this position. I'm kind of jealous that I couldn't get her for my office. That's my bad. But I really am so excited to see Flo step into student government through SFAC, and I really encourage you all to vote yes. I truly think that we have another transfer student on the agenda today for SFAC. So having transfer students on SFAC just makes me really happy. And yeah, I really urge you guys to vote yes.
Thank you. Yes, Tommy?
Yeah, I would just like to say Flo's what everyone already knows based on her ARC interview, on her interview tonight. She is a superstar, and it took me very little time to just automatically know that she would do amazing in this position. She has already done such amazing work representing the students of California. So she's gonna do phenomenal representing the students here at UCLA. And I really do have a lot of trust in her to ensure that our student fees over the course of the next couple years are allocated in a manner that directly benefits the student body. So,
Thank you, Tommy. Um, can we now move it? No, we'll now be moving on for a vote. Can someone please motion for a vote? Oh my. Hiram?
I raised my hand first. Sorry, guys. Motion to appoint Flo to the Chancellor Student Fee Advisory Committee for a 2-year appointment for the 2025 to 2026 academic year and then the 2026-2027 academic year.
I second.
Hiram motions, Tommy seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 11 to 0, that motion passes and Flo Kudal is approved to serve on the Student Fee Advisory Committee for a 2-year term. Congratulations, Flo.
Thank you very much.
We look forward to working with you. Our
Thank you,
next
everyone.
appointments candidate is Sophia with the commuter liaison. I believe she's Nico's appointment. Sophia, or Edison, are you raising your hand? Here.
I believe Sophia, like the commuter liaison, is a consent-based appointment. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me double check. Is sh if she is, then um yeah, if there's no opposition to Sophia's appointment.
Oh, she's here. I feel like she should at least get to give her opening statement if she's here.
Sophia. Sorry, I'm like whenever you're ready, feel free to give your opening statement.
Oh, hi. Sorry, couldn't find the mute button. Can you hear me?
Yes, whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is Sophia Gevorgian. I'm a fourth year double majoring in political science and Middle Eastern studies, and I'm here applying for the community liaison position. I have been and will be coming to UCLA for all 4 years at my time here, and it really took me a while to find my own community because I wasn't on campus as much as other students. But it doesn't have to be that way. For the past 2 years, I've taken on any opportunity to uplift community voices. And for the past 2 years, I have been a commuter ambassador at the Commuter Resources and Support Center, where I've helped coordinate events, but also I was invited to speak on a Regents panel 2 years ago. And there I was really shocked to hear from the Regents that they hadn't thought about commuters before my presentation, which leads me to why I'd like to take on this position. There's still so much that can be done, from creating a buddy program for new commuters or creating a survival guide to share the best tips and life hacks to commuting. So I would love to take on this opportunity with your consent, and thank you very much for reading my application.
Thank you so much, Sophia. We'll now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. If any council members have any questions, please raise your hand. Yes, Ram.
Hi, Sophia. I'm gonna ask you a really simple question. Why do you love commuters so much?
I think that our shared pain, but our shared reasons for commuting uplift our community as a whole, since we really find connections in ways that you wouldn't really expect. I remember in a commuter chat 2 years ago, we were all just sharing pictures of our dogs and saying, "This is why we commute," and that's just one reason why we love. Some of us need to commute, some of us love to commute. It's just an automatic connection that and solidarity that we have with one another that is a little community for us.
Thank you, Sophia. Yes, Tommy?
Yeah, so this was a position that I think Nico meant was vacant last year. So it's been a while since we've had someone in this position. So I was hoping you could share an idea or project or initiative that you hope to kind of help contribute to a culture of longevity in this position and inspire others to apply.
Definitely. First and foremost, I would definitely get the Commuter Support and Resources Center involved, since we all look towards their page for resources first and foremost. And in terms of longevity, I would love to start a commuter buddy program where we can pair up fourth years who have been commuting for a bit with the new transfers and the new freshmen, just so that from the very beginning there's a community established for new students. And this program can continue year to year, since it's essentially just pairing up students who have similar interests and from perhaps coming from the same areas, so they can share tips about which roads they take. Another point that I would love to raise this year and pursue is to establish priority enrollment for virtual classes for community students, since allowing students to take a day or two online would eliminate any parking fees, gas fees, time, and in general, just energy and energy that's spent on very arduous drives and transportation issues that we all see in Los Angeles. So those are just two of the programs I would love to implement this year.
Thank you, Sophia. Are there any other comments? Or no, sorry. Are there any questions from council members? Yes, Kaya.
The parking permit rates have been constantly increasing over the years, and since a lot of commuter students do utilize this, how would you work with UCLA Transportation to advocate for more transparent communication about parking, citation appeals, and permit lotteries.
Yes, especially I think it was 2 or 3 years ago when they added a tax to the permits, and we all saw an increase there again. So firstly, I would speak and connect with the FAC since they have been the, coordinating the grants for the past few years for commuter students and for the permits. So from there, I'd understand what has been done currently to reduce the fees. And from there, I would be able to better assess what could be next steps going forward, as well as what other grants could be created or utilized to support the parking grant funds.
Thank you, Sophia. Any other questions from council? Seeing as there's none, we can move on to your 1 minute closing statement whenever you're ready.
Yes, one
Sorry,
moment.
wait for the timer.
Hello. Thank you again for your time and for considering my application. As I mentioned, commuters are not often considered, and that is true for the student organizations on campus as well as for the administration. And in USAC, I believe that I can effectively bridge the divide between these two populations. As I mentioned, I have been commuting for the past few years and have taken any opportunity to uplift our voices, especially through a legislative and through an administrative lens. This year, I would love to provide a few initiatives that I would execute in collaboration with a few USAC offices, and these include creating a buddy system for new commuters, establishing efforts to establish priority enrollment for virtual classes, consolidating and expanding parking grant opportunities, and lastly, creating a survival guide for commuters. I would love to collaborate with you all, so if I'm appointed for this position, please reach out to me and I will hear from you soon.
So sorry, I was muted. Um, we will now be moving on to ARC recommendations.
I have it. Hold on. Sophia presented an exceptional written application and interview with ARC. We were blown away by her creativity, dedication, and knowledge on the varying needs of commuter students on campus, especially when it comes to how intersecting identities make it so a great portion of our non-traditional, marginalized, and transfer students commute regularly. She came prepared and gave us well thought out ideas for programs and initiatives she'd implement, from the Commuter Buddy program to the Commuter Survival Guide. Her ARC interview only made it clear that there is truly no one better served for this position. We have no doubt that Sophia will act on her promises and work hand in hand with USAC to be the strong representation that commuters need and deserve. That's simply the kind of person and leader we know her to be. With a 4-0 vote, ARC enthusiastically recommends Sophia to this appointment and is excited to work with her regularly to address the growing needs of our commuter students at UCLA.
Thank you, Hiram. We will now be moving on for a motioning of the votes. Can someone please motion for votes? Yes, Tommy.
I motion to appoint Sophia Gevorgian to the commuter student liaison position for the 2025-2026 academic year.
Second.
Thank you. Tommy motions, Hiram seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 12-0, that motion passes, and Sophia is approved to serve on as a commuter liaison. Sorry, I don't even think we needed to vote.
Thank you very much.
Right, Tommy?
Yeah, but we did so.
Okay,
But,
yeah.
yeah.
There you
Nico,
go.
wait, Nico, is it good? Since it's a consent, so.
Yeah.
Yes, it is all good on my end.
Well, there you go, Sophia. You got a vote. We'll now be
Looking forward to
moving
it.
on to Emily Gomez for ASUCLA Communications Board. Emily, whenever you're ready, please begin your 1 minute opening statement.
Oh, hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, the mute button. Hi everyone. My name is Emily Gomez. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm an incoming senior and second year transfer, majoring in English and minoring in digital humanities.
I'm applying to be on the communications board because I saw it as a unique opportunity to blend my background, having worked in student media as well as having been involved in student advocacy efforts. I've been involved in a variety of roles, such as my current involvement on the TSR's Media and Marketing Committee, in addition to having served on my community college student senate and active involvement in their journalism program. I feel that I've built a framework of understanding and deep respect for representing student voices and strengthening student media. And if appointed, I would do my best and look forward to being able to represent and advocate for student media.
Thank you, Emily. We will now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. Um, I can start off first. I had a question, but I'm blanking out. But I guess I can ask you, how will you work to um, improve impartiality in student media, as well as protecting and serving either editors or um, student writers who may face backlash or threats from the UCLA community?
Yeah, of course, that's a great question. Um, so to answer the first part in regards to impartiality, um, I believe that student journalists have a responsibility to report accurately and fairly on their campus community and their community as a whole. So if appointed to this position, I would uphold and encourage that mindset that journalism should be accurate and fair, and uphold that expectation that um, there should be a diverse range of um, just work that is being produced in order to accurately portray our campus that isn't a monolith. And in regards to protecting student journalists and the work that they produce, I, of course, believe in protecting the First Amendment and advocating for free speech expression through student media. I believe that's incredibly important. And I would strive to not only challenge, but to improve any decisions or policies that um, are put out with the intention to regulate and suppress that student expression that is their right.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Emily. Oh my God. It's like Emily's in my office, so I'm kind of sad that she's doing this interview. But regardless, that's aside from that, there has been a budget cut to our news magazines. I think it was a 40% budget cut. So, and that was this year that it was implemented. As a voting member of Comms Board, what do you think your responsibility is when it comes to ensuring that funding needs are met for these organizations this academic year?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for the question. Well, for starters, I recognize that being on the comms board is directly tied to the financial management of student media, so I know that it's a big responsibility that comes with the appointment. And with that in mind, I would use my voice to try to best advocate for student media to avoid further budget cuts, but recognizing the current state that um, student media is in financially, I would try my best to meet with students and gather a holistic understanding of just how finances and budgets are being handled in order to make informed decisions, and um, with the resources that I have, make sure to uplift um, access to information that they have to alternatives such as fundraising and outreach efforts in order to promote their work.
Thank you, Emily. I have another question for you. Um, how would you ensure that ASUCA media platforms reflects the diverse student voices on our campus and experiences as well?
Yeah, of course. So, as mentioned, I do, of course, recognize that the UCLA campus is not a monolith. Everyone is coming with a range of backstories and just unique upbringings. So, with that in mind, I would try to uphold the standard that student journalists should be not only producing work that highlights diverse stories, but is also engaging with a diverse range of sources so that they can produce um, stories that have a holistic narrative and not just a biased um, side of the story. And if for any reason a student media publication were to be producing deliberate bias media, then they would not be upholding their responsibility to serve the campus community accurately and fairly.
Thank you. Yes, Ram.
Hi, I believe that our student media organizations were once allowed to use pseudonyms and they were taken away. What is your stance on student journalists using like pseudonyms, like a name that isn't theirs? And what is your stance when it comes to student safety within journalism in regards to having your work tied back to your name?
Yeah, of course. So in regards to pseudonyms, from my understanding, that may fall under each editorial board's personal like regulations, but in regards to my stance, I of course believe in protecting student journalists and protecting their right to free expression. And I believe when it comes to journalism, we should always try to minimize the harm with the work that is being produced, and that goes both for the sources and for the writers of the stories. So always the long-term repercussions of the work that is being done should be considered. And in regards to certain subjects, of course, handling them with a certain sensitivity and making sure that everyone is protected to avoid any issues of harassment potentially.
Thank you, Emily. Are there any other questions from council for Emily? Yes, Kaya.
Um, what would you do in order to increase collaborations between international and domestic journalists and also increase advocacy for more global content when it comes to media at UCLA?
Yeah, I feel like that's a really great question. Um, I feel like that goes back to making sure that the people involved in student media are reflecting the diverse student body that we have at UCLA. So if for any reason a student feels that there's a barrier in access to joining student media, I would try my best to advocate and encourage students from diverse backgrounds to apply in order to be the ones there to advocate for their stories to be told. And yeah.
Thank you, Emily. Are there any other questions for Emily today from council? Final call. Seeing that there are none, we'll be moving on to Emily's 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you. I just want to start off by saying thank you again for this opportunity to share a little bit about myself this evening and to be able to talk about why I believe I aligned with this role, both professionally and in terms of my values. I really want to hone in that I recognize the importance of being able to represent the student body on the comms board, and I would handle this responsibility with a lot of passion and care. And if appointed, I would work to actively engage with student media and ensure that their voices are being heard at the board level. And I respect and value everyone who makes student media possible. And I would want to advocate for its students and their ability to produce work that allows access to valuable information. So thank you.
Thank you, Emily. We will now be moving on to deliberations from council. If you have any comments, please raise your hand. Yes, Ram.
Shouldn't it be ARC first?
Oh, yes, sorry. Oh my gosh.
That's Tommy.
There you go.
All right. As a student with extensive experience in student journalism, communications, and advocacy, Emily brings both professional insight and a transfer student perspective to the role. She is committed to transparency, fairness, and amplifying underrepresented voices in student media, and hopes to serve as a bridge between student publications and the board to ensure funding equity, editorial integrity, and inclusive access to storytelling opportunities. ARC enthusiastically recommends Emily with a vote of 3-0 for the ASUCLA Communications Board.
Thank you, Tommy. Yes, Ram.
Is it council deliberation now?
Yes.
Sorry. Emily is such a special person to me. We started in Mona's office together in the same committee, and I really, really, really wanted to have her in my office for the entirety of my term this year. I'm sad to see her go, but I really do think that there is no one better for this position. I strongly urge you guys to vote yes on Emily's appointment. She's such a hard worker, and I know that she is going to be such a wonderful voice for student journalists on the communications board. And I'm so excited to see what she does with this role.
Thank you so much, Ram. We will now be moving on for a motion for a vote. Can someone please motion? Tommy?
I motion to approve Emily Gomez for a position on the ASU CLA Communications Board for the 2025-2026 academic year.
Second.
Tommy motions, Hiram seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 11 to 0 to 0, that motion passes, and Emily Gomez is approved to serve on the ASUCA Communications Board for a one-year term. Thank you so much, Emily. Congratulations. Um, Michael is next, correct, Tommy? Yes. Michael, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Griffin. I use he, him pronouns. I'm an incoming fourth year biology major and evolutionary medicine minor. And I am applying for a position on the Green Initiative Fund, which is also known as TGIF. Currently, I'm the external assistant commissioner for the Facilities Commission. And I'm seeking to be the USAC representative on TGIF as required by TGF bylaws. But beyond that, I'm also hoping to foster connections between USAC and TGIF. Um, my job, in fact, is to make sure that our commission is constantly striving towards goals of sustainability, accessibility, and transportation. And to this end, last year I was the director of the Universal Access Transit Pass renewal referendum, where I worked really hard with my team to make sure that the funding for the U-Pass was renewed, to make sure that public transportation remained affordable and accessible to all undergraduates at UCLA.
Thank you, Michael. We'll now be moving on to our 15-minute question and answer period. If there are any council members with questions, please raise your hand. Yes, Sherry?
Hi, Michael. Thanks for interviewing. Currently, the public comment period for the DIR is open. I was wondering if you could elaborate on ways. Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. This is like totally the wrong time to be asking this question. Wait, this is my bad. My bad. Totally my bad.
I'd be happy to answer, but also whatever the council prefers.
Yeah, I think for the sake of time, you might have to move for another question. But thank you, Sherry. That is a good point, though. Yes, Nico.
I can get them officer reports.
Hi, Michael. I was just curious how you would advertise this funding body more and make sure that all of its funds are being utilized throughout the year, since this is one of the largest funding bodies at UCLA.
Yeah, definitely. I think that outreach is really important. I think that keeping our TGIF's website and social media up to date is really important to make sure that people know what's going on. I also think that collaborating with different organizations, including in USAC, to help promote TGIF's applications and its funding could be really useful in promoting its funds to students because, like you mentioned, it's such a large fund. I work closely with a lot of the projects in FAC that are directly related to sustainability, including Sustaina goals. and environmental justice now, and I could use those connections to help outreach to sustainability related organizations. And yeah, help get the word out that this funding is available, but also to any student organization, not just sustainability organizations.
Thank you, Michael. I have another question. I have a question for you. Kind of bumping what Nico said, how are you looking to promote this funding source for student organizations that aren't committed to sustainability, like cultural or just any other identity-based or even professional serving student organizations on our campus?
Just to clarify, the question was how am I planning on promoting that?
Yeah, and working with student orgs, I guess.
Yeah, of course. I am happy to work with any and all student organization that is looking to receive funding from TGIF. I believe that, like I mentioned, outreach is really important. I think that reaching out to student organizations we've worked with in the past is important, but also looking for new connections to student organizations that maybe aren't as well funded. I think especially with the current political climate of, a lot of cuts to DEI, it's really important that we're reaching out to marginalized communities and organizations that really need our funding and making equitable funding decisions. So I would, as a member of TGIF, make sure to try to cast a wide net in terms of organizations that are aware of our application and looking for our funding.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, sir.
Okay, I have an actual question for you. Sorry. Okay, I know that TGIF has accountability measures to like kind of follow up with organizations that you fund, but could you expand a little bit on kind of additional accountability measures that you hope to take this year to ensure that projects who have been funded meet kind of the goals that they explain in their application, and what should kind of follow up and certain consequences look like?
Yeah, definitely. Um not intimately familiar with the process because I am new to TGIF, but I do think that following up with organizations is really important to make sure that our funding priorities are met. And I think that means meeting with clubs if necessary, emailing them, asking how things are going, how events are going, even, attending events where possible just to see how things are coming along is really important. And I think that in terms of dealing with consequences, I definitely don't want to punish organizations that aren't meeting our guidelines, but I do want to work with them to make sure that they are promoting sustainability. So that means having, plant-based food at events or using compostable utensils and using transportation that's not just by car. So I think that if organizations were to continue to go against our principles, then that would maybe be a conversation of not funding those organizations in the future. But I do really want our funding to be as accessible as possible. So making sure that organizations are aware of what our parameters and guidelines are and making sure to follow up with them about those guidelines.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any other questions from council? Final call. Just kidding. Seeing as there are none, we'll be moving on to your 1 minute closing statement, Michael. Whenever you're ready, feel free to begin.
All right. Thank you, council members, for taking the time to interview me tonight. I'm really looking forward to serving on TGIF should I be approved by the council. And I am really hoping to strengthen the connections that already exist between USAC, specifically the Facilities Commission, and TGIF, as I am a member of exec for FAC. And I also hope to support projects that um, will have a great impact on students and that I am also personally passionate about. I'm very passionate about public transportation, so any projects, relating to that, I would love to support, as well as habitat restoration. TGIF has funded projects relating to that in the past, that I would love to support. And I also think that making sure that organizations that really need our funding are the ones that are getting it, and making those funding decisions with equity is definitely something I'll always be keeping in mind because using student fees is a really important thing to consider. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. We'll be now moving on to our recommendations.
Okay. ARC was immediately impressed with Michael's wealth of knowledge and experience, especially within the Facilities Commission, where he serves as External Assistant Commissioner. He presented an excellent understanding of how TGIF operates, and if appointed to this role, he noted that he hopes to ensure funds are allocated equitably to all organizations. Although his answers were a little brief at times, we have no doubt that Michael will act on his promises, which is why, with a 4-0 vote, ARC recommends Michael for this appointment.
Thank you, Hiram. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. I'll just say something really brief. I know Michael has been in charge of the Bruins for Better Transit referendum, and I was with him at the Sepulveda Transit Corridor press conference a few weeks ago. And I just really excited to see him on this funding body if he is approved and voted on. So yeah, that's it. Yes, Brett.
Yeah, I also wanted to echo that. Hi, Michael. How's it going? Having gotten to know Michael better throughout the campaign for the UPass referendum, I can confidently say that he is the right person for this job, and I strongly encourage everyone to vote yes to appoint him to this position.
Thank you, Brett. Seeing as there are no more deliberations, we'll be now moving on for a motion for a vote. Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
I can motion.
Okay,
Oh,
Brett.
I motion to appoint Michael Griffin to the TGIF for the 2025-2026 year for a one-year term.
Second.
Brett motions, Hiram seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 11-0, that motion passes, and Michael Griffin is approved to serve on TGIF for a one-year term. Congratulations, Michael.
Thank you, everyone.
Clarification for the meeting minutes. I meant to say academic 2025-2026, but yes. Now we will be moving on to Rachel Joss for the Judicial Board. Rachel, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hi everyone. My name is Rachel Jose, and I'm a rising junior at UCLA. I'm studying sociology with a minor in public affairs. Can everyone hear me? Is my audio working?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. I use she, her pronouns, and I am applying for the Associate Justice position on the Judicial Board. So this past quarter, I served as a law clerk on the UCLA Judicial Board, and this upcoming school year, I'm hoping to expand on my role within the board. I'm very interested personally in law and policy. So the Judicial Board has given me a very valuable opportunity to understand how our judicial process works, especially within the UCLA student body. And not only has it given me the opportunity to understand how it works, but it's given me the opportunity to participate actively in our student body. And as an out-of-state student, that's been a very valuable experience for me to have. And I've been able to give a perspective that might have contributed something diverse to the board. I look forward to answering all of your questions today, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rachel. We will now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. I have two questions for you. My first is, what does impartiality mean to you, and how would you maintain it when reviewing cases involving your peers or student orgs you're familiar with, or those you have personal disagreements with?
Definitely. So impartiality, I think, means reviewing evidence in an objective manner. So the way that I've kind of seen justices go about this in the judicial board is some of the cases that we get are very heated. And
we all have our own personal biases, we all have our own opinions. But I think what's important when you're reviewing those cases is to see how they align and contrast with the USAC bylaws. So it is very possible to be objective in these cases and to look at the evidence, to look at the USAC bylaws and just make a decision as to whether they're in accordance with them or they're not. And what's great about the judicial board is that you have the opportunity to talk to the other justices and actually have some debate on these topics as well.
Thank you. And then before I hand it off to Sherry, I have another one. How would you approach reviewing a petition or complaints that has strong emotional and political implications on our campus?
Definitely. So I think the judicial board has seen cases like that in the past. And I think there are two things that help that I mentioned a little bit in my previous answer, which is one, the foundation of the USAC bylaws. I think that gives us a very objective way to decide whether these petitions are in accordance with the bylaws or are not in accordance with it. And I think that's the best way to stay impartial in these cases is to look at the rules and see if they align with the rules or not. Because everybody is going to have a personal opinion on the case, but that's ultimately not what you're going to use to make a decision on the case. And then the second component is to make sure that you're actively participating in the board. So once you've reviewed the evidence, to give your perspective to the other judicial board members, because they might present an opinion to you that challenges yours and changes your perspective, or you might see that everybody's actually on the same page about this topic. And I think that's kind of another layer that the judicial board has to ensure that we're making impartial decisions, because we vote obviously in the majority. So those are the two main components that I think help maintain impartiality and fairness when cases are particularly heated or controversial. Thank you.
Hi, Rachel. What role do you believe systemic issues play in how students experience student government or accountability processes at UCLA? And how might these inequities influence who gets reported or heard? And how should JBoard respond to that reality?
Definitely. So I think when it comes down to systemic issues, I think we have to talk about accessibility to the board. I think a lot of people have kind of touched on this in this meeting, but a big goal of JBoard, I think, going forward is to ensure that students know that they have this as a resource in the first place. Because if they don't know that the judicial board exists and what we do and how to file a case with us, it's going to be very hard for them to get any type of recourse when they experience something on campus. So I think that's the main systemic issue that we encounter is making the board as accessible as possible. And that's something that this year I hope that we would be able to work towards making more accessible so that we can ensure that all students feel like they have a voice on campus.
Tommy?
Right. I guess my question for you is, could you please go into more depth or elaborate on kind of the balance between judicial restraint and judicial activism you believe you would take as a justice on if appointed as a justice to the judicial board?
Yeah, definitely. So I think when it comes to judicial activism, I would say that when reviewing any case that comes to the judicial board, it's really important to review these cases with empathy because students are coming forward to us in a position that is frustrating. They've encountered something on campus or they're experiencing something on campus that they feel is unjust, and they want us to be able to use our resources to help them get some sort of recourse on the matter. So I think when it comes to activism, when there are cases of discrimination, when there are very heated cases that come to us, I know that I mentioned making sure that we're looking at the USAC bylaws and looking at this in a very practical way. But obviously, it's also important to consider those cases in an empathetic way, make sure that you're listening to students and what they're going through, because our job as judicial board is to make sure that students are feeling heard. So that's where I would say the balance comes between judicial activism and restraint is yes, making sure that you are doing everything in accordance with USAC bylaws, but also making sure that you're viewing all of these cases considerately and empathetically, because some of the cases that we get are very frustrating to students and they deal with very serious matters. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
So just to clarify, I don't know, like, could you just go like a bit more specific in terms of, I know you gave like examples, but like overall, like how would you say you would make a determination as to whether or not you would look towards judicial restraint or um, judicial activism?
Definitely. So I do think that this depends on like a case by case basis. I think that's why I was kind of pointing to those examples, because I think it is very case specific. But I would say that cases where there does seem to be a very serious type of injustice happening, for instance, discrimination towards marginalized students, I think I would err towards judicial activism personally. But I do think that what's great about the board is that you are conversing with other judicial board members and your perspective will either be challenged or you'll agree with your other board members. So I would say my personal philosophy and how I would approach that is when I'm listening to cases on discrimination or serious topics of that matter, I would lean more towards judicial activism because I think that's how you make a change, and also how you make sure that you're condemning actions as a school that are unjust towards students. But I do obviously, as a judicial board law clerk, think that we should be in accordance with USAC bylaws as well. Um, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Hiram.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for joining us today. I know that in your ARC interview, you were asked about how you planned on expanding your role on the judicial board, especially when it comes to the UCLA community when you're not hearing any cases. And I know that you mentioned that you would like to expand the law clerk program and like educate the student body on what the board does. You also talked a lot about change. So I was hoping to hear some tangible steps you would take to make these a reality with our student body, and how you will use your like the actual position and the privilege that you have of being on judicial board to create actionable change on campus.
Definitely. So I think that when we're not hearing cases, as I kind of mentioned, you touched on as well, I would want to be focused on education in the sense of I'd want to make sure that all students know that they have the judicial board as a resource. In terms of taking tangible steps towards making the judicial board more accessible, I think that comes down to our social media platforms mainly and our website. So just tailoring our website to making sure that we're very clear on how to file a case with us and what that process looks like. So making sure that everything is as clear as possible. And then in terms of our social media platforms, making sure that we're putting out content that explains what the judicial board is, and how to use us as a resource. So I think those are the two things that I would work on in the meantime when we're not listening to cases is trying to be an educational resource, and ensure that all students know that they have us if they ever face something on campus and want to file a case.
Thank you. I have one question. Um, what's one change that I guess you'd say you would make compared to last year, um, based on the one and only case that you heard or supported in hearing?
So I last quarter listened to two cases. Only one of them went to a hearing stage. Um, are you asking me what's one change that I would make in the decision-making process of those cases or with the judicial board in general?
Can I ask in the decision-making process, but also in the process leading up to making a ruling?
Yeah, definitely. So in the decision-making process of that case, um, I would honestly say there isn't a change that I would make with the case that I heard, which was basically a case that discussed whether or not a student should be allowed to continue on in the USAC elections after missing a deadline. I think that the judicial board handled that case very well, if I'm being honest. We all reviewed the evidence. We came to our meeting all very prepared and understanding the case material. I think we also engaged in discussion very well and presented different opinions and were able to come to a good decision on it. I think the majority of us were on the same page on that case. So in terms of the decision-making process, I don't think that I would make a change for that case particularly. In terms of the judicial board in general, like I think the main change that I would make, that I've mentioned previously is working on those educational aspects because I personally don't think that all students know that we are a resource to them. And I think that's something that going forward, we need to take proactive steps to change. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Divine?
Hi, besides social media, how will you like actively connect with students and inform them about JBoard for people who just don't know it exists and may not be able to find information about JBoard online?
Definitely. So I think in terms of past social media, I think that one thing that's great about JBoard is that it does have the resource of USAC. So I think partnering with USAC on making us more accessible to students would be a good project for us. I think y'all have a lot of resources in general. The different committees at USAC have a lot of resources. And I think this could be a project that would entail going to those different committees and partnering potentially with different orgs too on campus. I'm not sure exactly what the rules are surrounding that, but maybe partnering with some of the more political orgs, legal orgs on campus to ensure that we're getting the most outreach possible of explaining what JBoard is and how we can be a resource. So I think as much as it is promoting on our side on social media, it's also about partnership. So that's the other kind of tangible step that I would want to take.
Thank you. Are there any other final questions from council members? Seeing as there are none, we can close our 15-minute 15-minute question and answer period and move on to your 1-minute closing statement.
Awesome, thank you. So thank you so much for your questions and time today and interviewing me. For my closing, I'd like to discuss my experience and how I plan on contributing to the judicial board. This past quarter, through serving as a law clerk on the judicial board, I've had the opportunity to see how the judicial board works, learning from and being mentored by the other associate justices and chief justice of the board. I strongly believe that my experience as a law clerk would serve me well in an associate justice position. I think that as a law clerk, I was able to understand how decisions are made on the board, and I was also able to participate actively in these discussions. Although I was not voting on these cases, we as law clerks, what's great about the judicial board is that we were able to offer our opinions, review the evidence just like an associate justice would, and engage in discussion with the other judicial board members, which I think taught me a lot and would put me in a good position for serving as an associate justice. And I hope to contribute to the judicial board by making the board more accessible, promoting impartiality, and ensuring that students are aware of this resource. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll now move on to Rachel's ARC recommendation.
Hello.
Yes, wait, what?
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, wait, I'm back. I think I just cut out for a second. Okay. ARC approved Rachel with a vote of 3-0 for the Judicial Board. As a rising junior majoring in sociology and public affairs, Rachel has gained relevant experience serving as a law clerk, where she supported case review and observed board procedures. She expressed a strong interest in continuing to approach cases openly, engage in thoughtful discussion, and contribute to maintaining transparency and accessibility in the board's work.
Thank you, Tommy. We'll now move on to council deliberations. If you have any comments from if any council members have any comments, please raise your hands in regards to voting. Final call. Seeing as there's none, we can move on from that and move on to a motion for a vote. Can someone please motion for a vote? Chris.
Yeah, motion. I move to approve or appoint Rachel to the Judicial Board for the 2025 to 2026 academic year.
2-year term.
For the 2025 to the 2026, in addition to the 2026 to the 2027 academic school years.
Chris motions. Do we have a second?
Second.
Chris Espino motions. Kaya seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining. With a vote of 12-0, that motion passes, and Rachel is approved to serve on the Judicial Board for a 2-year term from the academic year of 2025 to 2026 and 2026 to 2027. Congratulations, Rachel.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Have a great night. We will now be moving on to Catherine for the Academic Senate, the QARS, Community Undergraduate. I don't know the the acronym, but this is Chris's appointment. Catherine, whenever you're ready, you can begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Good evening. I'm Catherine Can, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a rising fourth year majoring in philosophy. I'm applying for a position on the Committee on Undergraduate Admissions and Relations with Schools. I believe I would be an excellent fit for this role due to my unique combination of experiences and skills that align with CORS's mission. Through my role at SWC, Bruin Necessities, and IVP, I've been at the forefront of addressing students' essential needs, which has given me insight into the diverse challenges that can impact academic success. I also work at the UCLA Loan Office, which has given me a nuanced understanding of how financial considerations can interact with admissions policies. Additionally, having served on CORS last school year, I have direct experience with how the committee operates and the current ongoing initiatives. These experiences have equipped me with a holistic understanding of student needs and potential barriers to access. I'm eager to bring my continued perspective to help CORS ensure fair and forward-thinking admissions.
Thank you, Catherine. We're now moving on to our 15-minute question and answer period. Yes, Chris.
Thanks, Diego. I'm sure you're cognizant of, recently the federal government has had a lot of rollback policies regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. So can you provide an example or perhaps a list of how you plan to successfully implement or advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the academic setting?
Yeah, so I think in when we're discussing equity, I think in regards to admission, this doesn't really end at just the admissions process. I think it also means giving students the opportunity to be their fullest self and find their place at UCLA. And one thing that I wanted to improve are boosting events at UCLA to make opportunities more transparent. One thing I worked on in AAC last year was the resource fair in which was a collaboration with IVP, and that's something I want to push for going forward because I think presenting these opportunities to transfer students and international students and all undergrads at UCLA is really makes a difference.
Thank you, Catherine. Do any other council members have any questions? No questions? Final call? Seeing as, yes, Sherry.
Hi, Catherine. I wanted to ask, given the UC system's current stance and ban on affirmative action, how do you think this committee should promote equity in admissions outcomes?
Yeah, so I think one thing that I personally spoke up for last year is really advocating for a more holistic review. And I think this means evaluating students in the context of their opportunities and also acknowledging systemic barriers and all the diverse educational backgrounds. I think right now UCLA is trying to move away from an overemphasis on metrics without having context. So I think just speaking up during those meetings about just all the different kinds of backgrounds is something that I want to keep doing.
Thank you, Catherine. Are there any other questions from council members? Seeing as there are none, we'll moving on to your 1 minute closing statement, Catherine.
Okay, thank you for considering my application and for this opportunity to discuss my contribution to CORES. I'd like to emphasize that beyond my academic and leadership roles, I have a strong personal commitment to community service and advocacy. I believe this perspective is crucial when considering admissions policies, as it underscores the importance of evaluating applicants holistically, not just for their academic achievements, but also for their resilience, potential to contribute to campus life, and ability to thrive in UCLA's diverse environment. My experiences have instilled in me a strong belief in the power of inclusive and equitable access, and I've seen how diverse perspectives can enrich our campus community, and this motivates me to work towards creating pathways that allow a wide range of students to flourish here. I'm ready to dedicate my skills to this important work, and thank you again for your time and consideration. I look forward to continuing to help shape the future of UCLA's future student body.
Thank you, Catherine. We'll now be moving on to ARC recommendations.
Yeah, so Catherine presented a strong interview with ARC, which isn't too surprising as she is no stranger to the role, having held it last school year. We appreciate her remarks that she hopes to continue the conversations she started last year to simplify requirements for community college transfer students pursuing a UC education. With a 4-0 vote, ARC strongly recommends Catherine for this appointment, and we are excited to see her return to her role in QUARS. We hope to see her push for more equitable standards and fair guidelines for admissions at UCLA during her second year in this position.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. If you have any comments, please raise your hands. Yes, Hannah?
Hi, I just wanted to say that it's been such a pleasure getting to see Kat really grow and brew necessities through SWC for over the past 2 years, advocating for basic needs for all students. I know she has an incredible work ethic and just a genuine care for the student body, and I'm excited to see her grow in this position.
Thank you. Chris?
Just echoing Hannah's sentiment, Catherine, as she mentioned, served in my commission last year, and I currently, I still view her as incredibly passionate. As she mentioned, she was always very adamant about bringing about change at UCLA, and I think that's a quality that we need more, and just a fervor that we need more with students. And so, I highly, highly recommend that we appoint her to this commission, to this committee.
Thank you, Chris. If there are no more, can someone please motion for a vote? Chris.
Okay. I move to appoint Catherine Can to the Academic Senate, specifically the QUARS for the 2025 to 2026 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Hannah? No, or was that?
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
second.
No, you're Chris motions, Hannah seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote 211 to 0, that motion passes, and Catherine is approved to serve on the Academic Senate Course Committee. Congratulations, Catherine.
Thank you.
For clarification for the meeting minutes for the academic year of 2025 to 2026 for a 1-year term. Now we will be moving on to our next appointment, and that is Emily with SVAC. And I believe this is Hiram's appointment. Yes. Emily, whenever you're ready, you can begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Okay. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Everyone, my name is Emily Kim, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm an incoming first-year transfer student majoring in business econ, and I'm applying for the position of undergrad student representative on the Student Fee Advisory Committee. I would like to serve on SVAC because I want to ensure that student voices are at the center of financial decisions that directly affect us, as it's important to be able to understand what we as students are paying this $1,332 fee for and how it intends to support us during our time here at UCLA. I believe that coming from a community college and serving as president of the Associated Students has provided me with the opportunity to work with an extremely diverse demographic of students who have given me a unique perspective on how to improve various student services and organizations that they identified with, including by implementing wheelchair-friendly seating, a new prayer and meditation room, and even a student discount card for local restaurants. And my experience working extensively with students and administrators across a variety of sectors will allow me to continue addressing equity gaps while actively finding ways to improve the student services offered and ensure that appropriate funding is allocated towards them.
Thank you so much. We'll now move on to your 15-minute question and answer period. Please raise your hands if you have any questions for Emily. Yes, Ram.
Hi, Emily. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know we asked about transparency and accountability within our ARC interview, but I was wondering if you could elaborate more on how you plan on promoting a culture of accountability through your position on SFAC.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I actually wanted to bring up was about an article that I was reading from a few years back about how transparency concerns were actually raised after SFAC had rejected an administrative salary cap, which would have allowed the money to address like food and housing insecurities. And it was kind of believed that SFAC members didn't want to jeopardize the relationship with the chancellor. And so I bring this up because while I understand the importance of maintaining a professional and collaborative environment, I'm also very aware of the fact that I'm here for the students and that even if it's uncomfortable, they're ultimately relying on me and our other representatives in the position I've been appointed to speak up on their behalf. And it's important to ensure that students are at the center of the decisions being made. I believe that one of the changes that can be made almost instantaneously is just creating updates to our website. I noticed that on the website, if you click on like the student service fee funded units, the most recent funding recommendations to the chancellor, as well as his response letter, was from 2018, which was 7 years ago. So definitely quite a long time ago. And also to mention that there are discrepancies in the list of funded units. On the homepage, I noticed that it lists the Transfer Student Center as a funded unit, but then when you click on the Student Service Fee Funded Units tab, it's not listed. And so while this is sort of like a small thing, I do think it's important that we need to make sure that our information is consistent and accurate and updated constantly, because I think that building transparency ultimately requires consistency. And
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I think I can ask, it's kind of the same questions I asked our earlier candidates. Why do you think it's important for students to have a say in campus-based student service fees and how they're spent? And what are some of your priorities for the years ahead?
Yeah, definitely. So I really want to emphasize the importance of gathering like as much student feedback as possible because like I mentioned earlier, students are paying $1,332 a year in student services. And so it's important that as my job as student representative to ensure that I have the student body's best interest in mind, because I know for me, if I'm going to be paying that much in student service fees, I would want to know where exactly that money is going towards and to make sure that I have a say in the overall conversation. As for my priority, I definitely want to emphasize the importance of our community programs office and providing basic needs services for our students, such as like the food bank and transportation services. And things like that, because I think basic needs, every single student on our campus can benefit from some sort of way from our basic needs services. And so I definitely want to make sure that we have enough funding allocated towards providing that for our students.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for our candidate today? Seeing as there are none, we can move on to your 1-minute closing statement.
Okay. I want to thank you all again for the opportunity to speak with you today. Serving in a variety of capacities and committees during my time in community college has allowed me to advocate on behalf of my fellow students who have raised concerns to me and want action to be taken through extensive conversations with our president and by authoring resolutions to demand that action be taken while holding administrators accountable. If appointed as representative, I also want to ensure that the voices of our transfer students are also being heard as they make up around 24.3% of the undergrad population, and I believe it is important to bring our unique perspectives into the conversation. I'm not afraid to call our administration when discrepancies in funding arise and know that with this position comes great power and responsibility, and that maintaining transparency and consistently holding one another accountable is essential to building trust with our student body and ensuring that their needs are at the forefront of our conversations.
Thank you so much. We'll now be moving on to ARC recommendations.
Yes, I have those. A third As a third-year transfer student majoring in business economics, Emily brings student government experience and a strong commitment to ensuring student fees are allocated in ways that directly benefit the student body. She emphasized the importance of transparency, equity, and increasing student input in financial decision-making, with specific plans to make committee information more accessible and student-friendly through social media, feedback structures, and clear communication. ARC enthusiastically recommends Emily with a vote of 3-0 for the Student Fee Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Tommy. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. If you have any comments, please raise your hands. Here, I'm assuming that's for deliberations.
Yes, it is. I just wanted to say that I've only known Emily for a short while, but I'm always in awe when I talk to her. Genuinely, like the amount of knowledge that she brings to the table is so impressive, and I am very excited at the prospect of having her as my SFAC appointment to Emily directly. I can't wait for us to work together, and I'm always here to support you as you step into this responsibility. But yeah, I hope you guys vote yes.
Thank you so much. Are there any other council members that would like to give comments? Final call. Seeing that there are none, we'll be moving on for a vote. Can someone please motion for a vote? Yes, Hiram.
Motion to appoint Emily Kim to the Chancellor's Student Fee Advisory Committee for 2 consecutive years from the academic year 2025 to 2026, and then 2026 to 2027.
Thank
Second.
you. Was that Jerry? Who was that?
Sherry.
Sherry? Okay. Um, Here are motions. Sherry seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 12 to 0 to 0, that motion passes. And sorry, I'm blinking out. Emily is approved to serve on SFAC for 2-year consecutive term from 2025 to 2027. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now we will be moving on to Josephine Lacrosse for the Academic Senate. Josephine, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to turn my camera on, but I don't know if that's possible. Okay, I'll just go like this. Okay, well, hi. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Josephine. Hi, sorry, did it cut out?
Yes, you're good. We can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that. Like finally let me turn my camera on. So I'll start again. Okay, sorry for the technical difficulties, but hi, thank you guys so much for having me today. My name is Josephine, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm a rising third year double majoring in political science and history. Here at UCLA, I've dedicated my studies to social justice. Last year, I served as the sole student representative on the faculty executive committee in the academic senate, where I lodged an initiative to encourage higher education among incarcerated individuals in Los Angeles County. Additionally, as a campus tour guide at UCLA, I promote various pathways toward higher education through tours to low-income communities and schools in Los Angeles County. And as music director of UCLA's Coastalong Sustainability Festival, I manage a 100% bike-powered music and sustainability festival for our community to enjoy every year. Outside of the classroom, I've also dedicated myself to fighting for progressive causes in Washington, D.C. About 3 years ago, I joined the campaign teams of Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and Cory Booker. This summer, I interned in Booker's office where I learned firsthand about constituent services, and I just believe my prior experience would empower me to dedicate and advocate for the student body.
Thank you so much, Josephine. We will now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. Chris.
Josephine, you are one incredible individual. And a lot of the answers that I've already posed, I've posed to you personally. So I'm curious to know what hopes do you hope to make within your capacity this academic school year?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really, really great question. Last academic year, I was a late appointee to the academic senate because, I wasn't really aware that it existed until towards the end of fall quarter. So I was sworn in week 10 of fall quarter, and I felt like because I was so new to the Senate, and because I didn't have any additional other representatives on my committee, I was forced to, really adapt really quickly and learn the inner workings of the college and the academic senate. But coming into this year, with now an understanding of the curriculum that I learned on the faculty executive committee, I'm coming in like ready to hit the ground running and take action. I really want to, expand my passion project. I've built connections with faculty who are on my previous committee and the analysts who said they're willing to help me, expand it, collect more books, set me up with specific organizations on campus like PEP, the Prison Education Program, and also, the Hill, just so I can like help collect books for that. So really want to expand my passion project. And then another thing that I'm really interested in doing is kind of expanding transparency and just awareness of the specific committees of the academic senate as a whole, because I know specifically the undergraduates council, the more I look into it, the more I, learn how important it is and how many changes that are being made right now. So I think, getting the word out to students through social media, through reaching out to affinity clubs, and all of that is really important. I really think, having town halls is something that came up last year as well, just before important meetings. Like last year, I know the undergraduate council met about what to do in the situation of the terrible fires in Los Angeles. And I think, just opening up the platform for more students who might not necessarily have the time or resources to be in student government themselves, just give them a platform to, use their voice, because the whole point of representatives is to speak for the student body. And I just think that there could be a lot more done to actually hear more from student voices who aren't necessarily involved in USAC or the Academic Affairs Commission itself.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council? Final call for questions. Seeing that there are none, we'll be moving on. Thank you so much, Josephine. We'll move on to your 1-minute closing statement whenever you're ready.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me today. I know it's probably been a long night for you guys. I'm really happy to be here to impact social justice at UCLA, which is something that I'm very passionate about. I do believe that it's imperative to be involved in USAC and collaborate with other students and administrators. As I mentioned previously and touched on a little bit, I was the sole student representative on the faculty executive committee last year, and I was kind of thrown in really quickly. And I adapt. I stepped up to the task. I discovered not only how to represent traditional students like myself, but also transfer students and Bruins from all walks of life, and even aspiring students outside of the institution who might need access to resources to pursue higher education. And I also made noise when student programs were threatened. And I set up meetings outside of, just my allocated committee time with analysts and other faculty members on the faculty executive committee. And I really believe that these prior efforts would empower the expansion of my passion project. And I really entered the academic senate to cultivate long-term change here at UCLA. And now I'm ready to take every opportunity I can to water those seeds that I've already planted. And I believe the undergraduate council is probably the most vital and important place to do so right now.
Thank you so much, Josephine. We'll now be moving on to ARC recommendations.
Yes. So those are me. All right. A political science and history major, Josephine brings experience serving as the sole undergraduate representative to the Faculty Executive Committee the previous year, where she advocated for student-led programs and navigated complex policy issues. She aims to improve transparency and student engagement through town halls, drop-in hours, and expanded outreach, particularly for transfer and marginalized students. With a strong grasp of academic governance and a commitment to equity, Josephine plans to ensure student perspectives remain central to decisions impacting undergraduate curriculum and educational policy. With a 4-0 vote, ARC enthusiastically approves Josephine for an appointment to the Academic Senate Undergraduate Council.
Thank you, Tommy. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. Please raise your hands. Yes, Hiram.
Hi, sorry, that took me a second to unmute. I worked with Josephine last year through my capacity in the Academic Affairs Commission, and I have to say I don't think I've ever seen anyone as committed to the Academic Senate as Josephine is. And her project was so cool. Like sometimes I wonder like how effective a project can be because we have such little time to work on it. But Josephine's project had true impact, and I was so like so excited to see it come into fruition. And I'm really excited to see what Josephine accomplishes this year within a little bit of a different capacity, but still within the Academic Senate. I think, Josephine, you'll do amazing. I really encourage you all to vote yes.
Chris, I believe you had your hand up.
Wait, Diego, did you call on me?
Yes, wait, sorry. I think you had your hand up earlier. I don't know.
Yes, I did. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is lagging. I just kind of want to echo Hiram's sentiments. I mean, Josephine was appointed very late in the process because, as she mentioned, she was cognizant of the fact that the academic senate existed, and very, very quickly she was one of the senators to execute her project with so much grace and so much, it was almost like a perfect execution of a project if that exists. And just we just really a no-brainer for this committee, which, as was mentioned earlier, is one of the most vital committees in the academic senate. And so again, it's really a no-brainer. She's dedicated, she's passionate, she's incredibly intelligent, and I just cannot wait to see the wonderful things she'll do in her capacity on UGC.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any other council deliberations? Seeing that there are none, we can move on to a vote. If someone wants to motion for a vote. Yes, Herm.
Motion to appoint Josephine to the undergraduate council of the Academic Senate for a one-year term within the 2025 to 2026 academic year.
Second.
Thank you. Hiram motions, Sherry seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote 12 to 0, that motion passes and Josephine is approved to serve on the Academic Senate on the Undergraduate Council for a one-year term on the 2025-2026 academic year. Congratulations, Josephine.
Thank you, and thank you guys so much for your encouragement. I really do appreciate it. I can't wait to see you guys all again at UCLA super soon. So thank you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of your night.
You too. Have a great night. All right, now we'll be moving on to Jesse Martinez for TGIF. Jesse, whenever you're ready, you can start your 1-minute opening statement.
Hi, my name is Jesse Martinez. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a second year environmental science major, conservation biology emphasis, and film minor. I'm applying to be a member of the TGIF committee this year with aspirations of being appointed as this year's funding chair. And I think I'd be a good fit as a member of the TGIF committee and for the position of committee chair because I have experience both as a voting member in spring 2025 and also as the student staff serving TGIF for the entire 2024 to 2025 school year. I have extensive experience working with applicants and awardees of funding and understand the process of allocation thoroughly from application to requisition and beyond. I'm hoping that with the support of the rest of the TGIF committee this year, TGIF will take a more central position as a supporter of student sustainability efforts on campus, especially in light of the continued attacks against the environmental sciences and environmental activism.
Thank you so much, Jesse. We will now be moving on to 15-minute question and answer period from council. Council members, please raise your hands if you have any questions for Jesse. Are there any questions for council? Yes, Michael.
Hi, Jesse. I'll ask a question on behalf of Joy. How will you ensure that marginalized communities at UCLA are being supported in projects that don't explicitly relate to sustainability?
That is a really great question. I think in terms of TGIF's role in this, we have supported in the past events that lean more towards the cultural side, with recognition that there are cultural practices that that innately tangle themselves with environmentalism and with our mission abroad. And so I think that we as a committee recognize that there are cultural events and practices and cultural organizations that will come to us and seek funding, and that we need to look at it from an equitable lens and from a broader lens with the understanding that not only is environmentalism about, direct sustainability in terms of reducing our footprint on the planet, it's also about uplifting voices that are often marginalized and pushed to the side in these kinds of conversations. I know that in the past, we've supported direct environmental justice efforts. Last year, we funded the powwow that took place at UCLA, once again, recognizing that innate cultural relation with sustainability and environmentalism.
Thank you, Jesse. Are there any other questions from council? Final call for questions. Seeing as there are none, we'll be moving on to your 1-minute closing statement. Whenever you're ready, please begin.
Great. Thank you, and thank you everyone for your time today. I wanted to let you know that I'll be continuing my position as the student staff member for TGIF while sitting on the committee if I'm to be appointed. I want to make council aware of this if they're not already. I wanted to make council aware of the fact that I will be ineligible for the stipend usually offered for this position because of that. And I mention it to call attention to the fact that I'm here for the passion of it. I really believe in the mission of TGIF, and I hope that you'll select me based on my belief in this committee and its mission. And especially in a time where sustainability and the environmental sciences are under attack, I want to promise you that if appointed, I'll guide TGIF towards a place where we play a more central role on campus as a committed supporter of student-led sustainability efforts.
Thank you, Jesse. We will now be moving on to ARC recommendations.
Yeah, ARC is under the impression that Jesse is immensely qualified to serve on TGIF. However, we believe during the interview that his answers to our question regarding marginalized groups was a bit lackluster. Despite this, we appreciated the previous insight he brought into this interview, and we appreciated his interest in having a more direct impact on the student body through TGIF this school year. With a 4-0 vote, ARC recommends Jesse to this appointment.
Thank you so much. We will now be moving on to council deliberations. If you have any comments, please raise your hands. Final call. Seeing that there are none, we'll close that and move on to voting. Can someone please motion for a vote? Tommy.
I motion to appoint Jesse to TGIF for the 2025-2026 academic year.
Second.
Tommy motions here second. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote of 12-0, that motion passes, and Jesse is approved to serve on TGIF for a one-year term for the academic year of 2025 to 2026. Congratulations, Jesse.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too, have a good night. We'll now be moving on to our next appointment, which is Dante for TGIF as well. Dante, whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dante. I'm a third-year political science student here at UCLA. And if approved today, this would be my second year serving on TGIF. Last year, I had a really great opportunity to serve the campus community on TGIF. It was really impactful to be able to review these applications and get to fund these amazing projects that take place all over our campus and that have a huge sustainability impact right here at UCLA. I've always appreciated being able to give back and serve the campus community, and given the opportunity, I would be really honored to get to do that again this year. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. If council members have any questions, please raise your hands. Yes, Michael.
Hi, Dante. My question is, why are you applying for reappointment, and what changes do you wish to implement in TGIF this coming year?
So, like I said, I'm reapplying because of how much I appreciated the opportunity last year to get to do this, and also because as a committee last year, we started a lot of new projects that I'm really excited about, and I'm really excited to see move forward into the coming year. A good example would be the sustainability shed that we're trying to build. There's a lot of items that clubs request from us in a lot of different applications. So the goal behind that was to buy a lot of those ourselves and loan them out to organizations so that uh, not everyone has to buy them, and it's a little bit more sustainable that way. So getting to move projects like that one forward Also, projects that I started last year, like outreaching to other clubs who don't usually apply to TJF. I would really like to continue that, um, and just continue having a bigger and bigger impact on the student body.
Thank you, Dante. Are there any other questions? I think I asked this to Michael and I forgot to ask it to our previous appointment candidate. But what would you improve when it comes to reaching out to either cultural student organizations, identity-based organizations, and just making the mission of TGIF more accessible?
Thank you for the question. I think throughout last year, we did get a lot of applications from cultural organizations, and we're always really excited to see those and get to fund those projects because those are usually really exciting ones. The main drawback to a lot of them in the past has been that a lot of them don't follow our sustainability guidelines that well. So I think going forward, and especially in outreach, is highlighting our sustainability guidelines a little bit more and making sure that we can fund these organizations and make sure that their events are sustainable.
Thank you. Any other questions? Final call. Seeing that there are none, we'll be moving on to your 1-minute closing statement whenever you're ready.
All right. And I would really appreciate this opportunity to get to serve on TJF again. And if appointed again, I look forward to working with some of the same people as last year and also some new faces on the committee. Um, Last year was a really big year for TJF. We got to do a lot of new things that we haven't done in the past. And this year, I think, seems like it'll be another big year. A lot of big projects in the works, and I'd love the opportunity to continue spreading the mission of TJF and making UCLA just a little bit more sustainable, one project at a time. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to our recommendations. Tommy or him. I'm not sure who has them. Thank you.
Yeah, 1 second. Sorry. All right. All right. Um, as a returning member, Dante brings extensive experience reviewing sustainability-related proposals and has helped implement systems to ensure fairness, transparency, and precedent in decision-making. Committed to promoting sustainability from start to finish, he supports partial or conditional funding to strengthen projects and aims to continue expanding outreach so a diverse range of student organizations can access TJF resources equitably. With a 3-0 vote, ARC enthusiastically approves Dante to the Green Initiative Fund committee.
Thank you, Tommy. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. Final call to raise your hands. If not, we'll be moving on for votes. Can someone please motion for a vote? Yes, Ren.
Motion to appoint Dante to TGIF for is it a 1-year term?
Yes.
For a 1-year term in the academic year 2025 to 2026.
Is there a second?
I second.
Here motions, JS seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 12-0, that motion passes. And Dante is approved to serve on TGIF for a 1-year term from the academic year 2025 to 2026. Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody.
Now we will be moving on to our next candidate, Keisha, for the Academic Senate on the Committee on Research. Whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Hi everyone, my name is Keisha. I go by she, her, hers, and I'm a rising third year majoring in disability studies with a double minor in public affairs and global health. I'm applying for the Committee on Research since I believe in really building student-led efforts that not only respond to divestment on higher education and research funding, but also center the voices and lived experiences of undergraduates, especially those who've been disproportionately affected by these attacks. I would be a strong fit for this role since I've conducted research here at UCLA for the past 2 years, and I'm currently working with the Undergraduate Research Center for Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences. My research, combined with the intersections of learning from my peers and communities around me, have pushed me to really commit to making research accessible for all students.
Thank you. We will now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. Yes, Sherry.
Hi, Keisha. Given recent funding cuts to research, what are tangible steps that you would take to approach advising on like funding or resource allocations in a way that supports marginalized students who have been historically excluded from STEM fields to protect kind of like equitable access to research?
For sure. I'm currently a PLF for AAP, and that makes me a part of the United Auto Workers Local 4811. So I would definitely be interested in like pursuing a cross-sector like coalition that would include union student employees and researchers and departments across all disciplines, STEM, humanities, and social sciences. And from there, I hope to really like identify and uplift departments and programs that are experiencing these cuts and losing federal grants, and to be able to like engage with like student groups conducting like independent or community-based research, such as through their capstone projects, policy labs, senior theses, and creative research would definitely be a route I'd consider taking, considering that research has been targeted disproportionately. So being able to collect from like student narratives from all types of disciplines would really highlight how like student-led research continues to like shape academic goals and support marginalized communities.
Thank you. Yes, Ram.
Hi, Keisha. Thanks for being here tonight. We usually ask this during ARC interview, so I'm kind of surprised that we didn't. But how comfortable do you feel speaking up when student voices aren't asked for? I think you have another representative with you on Council of Research. I might be wrong on that. But Academic Senate can be a space where students feel as though they don't have a voice because the majority of the members are faculty. So how comfortable do you feel speaking up on behalf of other students?
Definitely. I think on the committee, it would be a graduate student representative alongside, but I've definitely faced like dynamics like that in the past where sometimes I'm the only student. So I can definitely like foresee it being a challenge in the future, and it can be really intimidating. But just knowing that I have like student support behind me and having learned so much from my peers' research in all of the research programs I've participated in, as well as collaborating with other peers in my research, I feel that I've just learned so much immensely from their own experiences that being able to navigate those conversations with other faculty members can feel less intimidating, even though it still is. And I won't lie about that. But being able to listen deeply during board meetings and just asking questions that help guide my thinking and finding common ground could definitely help.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council? If there are not, we can move on. We can move on to your 1-minute closing statement.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me here today and spending the time asking questions. I really hope to bring both my personal lived experiences as well as the conversations I participated in with my peers in research and a systems level understanding of how divestment and research disproportionately affects underrepresented students' communities. And I'm really ready to work alongside the council to mobilize students at UCLA and help ensure that their academic futures and the futures of the communities that they serve in their research are not up for debate. And I really hope to bring this critical lens that's been really shaped by the communities I've worked with. And yeah, thank you again.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to ARC recommendations.
Yeah, so Keisha had an excellent interview with ARC, and we appreciated the thoughtfulness of her answers from her experience as a multidisciplinary student studying disability studies, global health, and public affairs to being an AAP and SP. We are under the impression that Keisha will be an excellent advocate for students on the Council of Research. With a 4-0 vote, ARC strongly recommends Keisha for this appointment.
Thank you so much. We will now be moving on to council deliberations. Final call. Seeing as there are none, we can move on to a motion for a vote. Can someone please motion to vote? Yes, sir.
Motion to appoint Keisha to the Council on Research for a one-year term for the academic year 2025 to 2026.
I second.
Your motions, JS seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote of 11 to 0, that motion passes, and Keisha is approved to serve on the Academic Senate Committee on Research for 1 year term of the academic year 2025-2026. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Of course, have a great night. We will now be moving on to our third to last appointment. Priscilla Reyes for the Academic Senate General Education Governance Committee. Whenever you're ready, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Hi, my name is Priscilla Reyes. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a first-generation transfer student from Los Angeles Mission College. I'm majoring in psychology with a minor in education. I am currently a junior, and I'm applying for the General Education Governance Committee. I believe I'm a strong fit for this position because of my past experience serving in student government during the full duration of my time in community college. I served as the Educational Services Senator, where I advocated for transparency and full support from the campus in ensuring that all courses offered enriched and diverse our body of students. And my second year, I served as a student government president, where my passion for advocating students expanded while I worked extremely close with my administration and students on campus and beyond, like with SSCCC, where I submitted and passed a resolution advocating for higher wages for student workers in California community colleges. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We will now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period. Hiram?
Hi, thank you for being with us today. I'm so sorry if you hear background noise. There is a crying baby in this house. My question for you is, how will you bring in your lived experiences as a community college transfer student while serving in this advisory position within the Academic Senate General Education Governance Committee?
Yes, thank you for that question. So I believe that I come from a lot of different backgrounds that are really going to help diversify my ability to work with the General Education Committee. So I just have came across a lot of problems that students may have that may deal with this at UCLA. So my community college, we had to make sure that serving on the educational planning committee and student government, I had to ensure that the courses being added to our class schedules, satisfied all of our different students, such as our dual enrollment students, international, non-traditional, virtual, and in-person students, especially with students coming straight out of high school, where they're dealing with the LA College Promise Program, for example, where they're encouraged to graduate within 2 years and they have to take specific classes. So just ensuring that the classes that are being offered through general education, they're well-rounded. They're well-rounded and they're also benefiting students in a way that they're getting the full experience of coming to higher education, as well as what they're putting their money into and their time into. So just ensuring that everyone's being met. And I understand where it comes, like, I understand what it means to come from different backgrounds, and especially as a first generation student, it's been a challenge to kind of get here. And I hope that I can use this opportunity to give back to my community and help out.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from council? None? Okay, we'll be moving on to your 1-minute closing statement.
Okay, thank you for considering my application. To close, I just want to emphasize my passion for making education accessible and meaningful. As someone who has personally navigated the challenges of being a first generation student, a transfer student, and a low income student, I know how important it is that general education requirements serve all students equitably. I believe that my leadership experiences, my advocacy background, and my perspective as a student from color from an immigrant family uniquely position me to contribute meaningfully to this committee, and I'm excited about the possibility of representing student voices and ensuring that our general education system works for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We'll now be moving on to our recommendations.
Yes, those are gonna be mine. All right. A psychology major and a transfer student from LA Mission College, Priscilla brings leadership experience as a former community college student body president and a strong commitment to student advocacy. With a background in academic advising and educational planning, she aims to ensure GE requirements are purposeful, accessible, and reflective of 21st century challenges, while prioritizing transparency, outreach, and student-centered decision-making. ARC enthusiastically approves Priscilla with a vote of 4 to 0 to 0 for the Academic Senate General Education Governance Committee.
Thank you, Tommy. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. Please read yes, Tommy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Priscilla, I'm really inspired. I was inspired during your ARC interview. The passion you bring to this position, the passion you have showed in your past experiences. There's no doubt in my mind that you're going to excel and thrive in this position and really make it your own. So I can't wait to see all the amazing things you do this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Ram.
Okay, not Tommy stealing literally everything I was gonna say, but Priscilla, I am so excited to see transfers stepping into leadership roles like this. Our voices are so vital, especially now. And honestly, your ARC interview, your council interview, like the answers that you had to say, I was thoroughly impressed, and I'm so excited to see what kind of changes you enact through the privilege you that's bestowed upon you through this position. And I'm so excited to potentially work with you. Please keep in touch. Please use me as a resource. I would love to do my best to assist you, even though I'm not really AAC adjacent as TSR. I really want to make sure that you succeed in this appointment and that you feel like you have someone to turn to. So again, I'm really excited, and I hope every council member here votes yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on for a vote. Can someone please motion for a vote? Yes, sir.
Motion to appoint Priscilla to the General Education Governance Committee on the Academic Senate for a one-year term for the 2025 to 2026 academic year.
I second.
Your motions, Tommy seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. Please, all against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 11 to 0 to 0, that motion passes. And Priscilla is approved to serve on the Academic Senate General Education Governance Committee for a one-year term. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Of course, have a great night.
You as well.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to Bria for the Community Service Mini Fund. Whenever you're ready, please begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Ria Singh. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm an incoming third year majoring in psychology with minors in public affairs and public health. I'm applying for the CS Mini Fund committee member position because I have a strong passion for supporting student-led service initiatives that create meaningful community impact. Through my roles in the UCLA Community Service Commission and as a general service member, I've gained experience in understanding funding processes, supporting project development, and fostering equitable access to resources for student organizations and students themselves. And these experiences, along with my commitment to advocating for underserved communities, make me confident that I can help allocate funds effectively and ensure that student-led service programs have the support they need to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to your 15-minute question and answer period from council. Are there any questions? If nobody has a question, I can ask a question. Just what inspired you to apply to this committee?
So I understand what it's like to be a part of a service organization that is lacking resources and funding. And I had to myself talk to several partnerships and try to receive funding. And through that, I learned how to allocate and really learn how to distribute the funding. And I just know that many projects are very capable, but they tend to focus on how they can receive resources and they're more focused on the logistics rather than doing their community impact. So I really wanted to apply to this role in order to help projects continue with their broader community impact rather than just focusing on the logistics and trying to maintain a float as an organization.
Thank you. Hiram?
Hi, Ria. Thanks for being here. I'm wondering what you're most excited to accomplish through the CSC committee if appointed.
I think this also relates to the question I just answered, as I really just want to help and I'm most excited for organizations to just continue their work. They tend to serve, sorry, they tend to serve the broader community and help with unmet needs. And so just seeing these projects thrive through funding that is available to them, I think that is what I'm most excited for as they are able to continuously put an effort into the community.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for our appointee today, or candidate today? Seeing that there are none, we can move on to your 1-minute closing statement.
So I would first like to say thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you all today. Throughout my experiences, I've seen how access to resources can determine whether a project either thrives or struggles, as I have been on both sides. And if selected, I'll bring fairness, transparency, and a strong dedication to making sure projects have the ability to thrive. I want to ensure that each student-led service project, regardless of their size, has the ability to focus on their impact. And I'm very excited about this possibility of contributing to this work. And with that, I would like to finish off my statement by saying thank you once again.
Thank you so much. And before we move on to our recommendations, Laura, I have a quick question. I think she's being moved on as a regular committee member. Is that possible, or like, did we need to have a chair? Or Edison, actually, yeah. If you can clarify.
Oh, actually, I also wanted to ask Lorelai about this. But I know Ria has indicated her preference to be a committee member on the fund. So maybe Lorelai, you could also help to clarify on this.
Yeah, you can point as sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, you could be you can appoint just as a committee member. I forget how many members sit on the CS Mini Fund. In the case that you need to move someone to chair, you can do that at a later date as well.
There's four, and she's one of the two CSC affiliations, so she should be good.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. We can move her for a committee member. So with that said, can we get ARC recommendations, please?
Yes, you can. Ria had a wonderful interview with ARC, currently serving as Project Liaison Director with CSC. She understands how funding works within project organization and has been on both sides, the one asking for funding and the one distributing funding. Ria has direct experience when it comes to funding for service organizations, and ARC can tell that she is passionate about the work that is asked of her on the CSC committee, and we are equally as excited for her. With a 4-0 vote, ARC recommends Ria for this appointment.
Thank you. Can we move on to council deliberations, please? Yeah, Citizen, and then Divine.
Yeah, so just a short advocate for Ria here. I worked with Ria for the past year in CSC as directors, and I would just like to say that she is the perfect candidate because she brings the perfect blend of passion for service as well as having the knowledge to execute her roles proficiently. So I just hope that this council will look favorably upon her application.
Thank you, and Divine.
Hi, I got the pleasure to get to know Ria this last month studying abroad together. And just in this short amount of time, I've gotten to see her passion for CSC and her dedication. And she's so hardworking. And yeah, she's perfect for this position. And I really encourage y'all to vote yes for her.
Thank you so much. We'll now be moving on for motion of a vote. Can someone please motion to vote for
Um,
reappointment?
Motion to appoint Ria Singh to the USAC Community Service Mini Fund for a 1-year term for the academic year of 25-26.
I second.
Edison motions, Divine seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hand. With a vote with a vote of 11-0, that motion is approved, and Ria is approved to serve on the Community Service Mini Fund Committee for a 1-year term. Congratulations, Ria.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your night.
You too. Have a great night. All right, we will now be moving on to our last appointment. Hiram, whenever you're ready, you can begin your 1-minute opening statement.
This is so funny. It's been a long evening, so I'll keep this short. But hi, council, in case you don't know me, which in that case, that's kind of problematic. My name is Hiram Yoon, and I am seeking the Transfer Student Representative's appointment to the Academic Senate Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I was in this exact same role last school year, where I observed how the decision-making process was often heavily faculty-centered with little consideration for student needs and interests. And when I brought up concerns that my peers faced, I was met with shock from members of the Senate that simply weren't aware of the varied lived experiences of our undergraduate students. And as a transfer student, there haven't been many opportunities that I've been able to do consistently, unlike my peers that are traditional 4-year students, which are most of you on council. And when I was new to campus and student government overall, Kodai was a place where I felt respected and heard and allowed me to grow more confident as a person. If you're worried about my time commitment, don't be. I'm a very type A person. I can take on both roles. But yeah.
Thank you so much. We will now be moving on to 15-minute question and answer period. Please keep this short, everyone. Final call, Chris.
This is just as an FYI. Usually, Aram can appoint herself without any need. I think that's in the bylaws. I might be mistaken, but just wanted to put that out there. Like usually, Jonathan's not here, but usually how it works is Aram essentially says, "I would like to be appointed for this position," and it just happens that way. But maybe Laura can chime in.
When I talked to Jonathan, he said that I had to go through ARC and council.
Oh,
I think it's
interesting.
because this
Okay.
one is not a consent-based appointment, it's a voting appointment.
Interesting. Okay. Good to know. I know she got out her first year. She just prepared herself. So okay, but this is good to know.
Sounds great, everyone. So no questions for everyone else. We'll be moving on to our ARC recommendation.
Closing statement.
Do I not get a closing?
Yes, you get a closing statement. You're
Okay.
honored with a closing statement.
My closing statement is please vote yes. I really love being on Kodai and I love the Academic Senate. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now be moving on to that ARC recommendation.
ARC approves.
Sounds great.
I'm just kidding. We have a statement. All right. Hiram is immensely qualified to serve on the Academic Senate Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Her ARC interview only reaffirmed what we already know, that she is strong, capable, and ready to advocate for the needs of all students. With the institutional knowledge she has built in her previous year in USAC, ARC confidently believes that the Academic Senate would be lucky to have her for another year. Even as USAC TSR, a role which we know is a demanding role in nature. Her type A personality gives her the organizational and time management skills necessary to balance and thoughtfully contribute to what both roles ask of her. With a 3-0 to 1 vote, ARC enthusiastically and unequivocally recommends Hiram for this appointment and remains um, under the belief that she is exactly what this committee needs during a time where diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are at a threat nationwide.
Thank you for such a brief ARC recommendation. We'll now be moving on to council deliberations. Actually, no, we're gonna skip council deliber. Yes, Hiram.
I think she's a really qualified candidate. Unfortunately, I will be abstaining from this vote because at our first USAC meeting, Jonathan said if we have a financial responsibility to the candidate, we should not vote for them. And obviously, I have a financial responsibility to this candidate, but I strongly urge you guys to vote yes.
Thank you. We'll only be taking that deliberation, and we'll be moving on for a motion for a vote. Can someone please motion? Yes, Tommy.
I motion to appoint Hiram to the Kodiak Committee for a 1-year term for the 2025-2026 academic year.
I second.
How many motions? Jay, seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 11 to 0 to 1, that motion passes, and Hiram Yoon is appointed to Kodai. Congratulations, Hiram. And we are done for our appointments today. And we will now be moving on to, sorry guys, let me pull up the agenda. To new business. Wish if I find it.
Officer reports.
Oh, officer report. Sorry, everyone. I'm going to move and ensure or make only execs give updates. Mine will be written.
Okay, I'll try to keep this brief. The IVP staff applications finally dropped today. Please share. Really looking forward to hiring all these amazing people. Also, everybody, I just want to say thank you so much for forwarding appointments to ARC. ARC has been hard at work this week. We've interviewed over 30 people. 18 of them came before you today. I would just like to say we still have over 145 appointment positions we still need to fill. That being said, if we do not want to continue to have these really long academic meeting or USAC meetings into the academic year, please continue to send people forward so we can interview them and conduct all these interviews while we are on Zoom. But yeah, please, thank you.
Sure.
My updates will be written today.
Thank you, Chris.
My updates will also be written. Thank you.
Sounds great. We'll now be moving on to new business. And we'll start with Tommy. Your resolution, feel free to give a brief overview if you'd like. And yeah, whatever you think is best.
Yeah, we're just gonna keep it brief because it has been a long one. This one is basically just kind of affirming what we stated in our letter, but calling on the UC to rescind the current memo um, against boycotts, banning boycotts against um, countries by UC student governments. So everything is kind of spelled out in the resolution, and we've already heard a lot of the similar themes in the letter provided in the previous week. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask.
Final call for questions. Seeing that there are none, can we motion for a vote, please? Tommy,
I motion to approve a resolution condemning President Drake's memo banning boycotts against countries by UC student governments.
A second.
Tommy motions, Kaya seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a vote to 11 to 0 to 0, that resolution is approved. Next agenda item is a letter concerning recent cuts to federal research funding on behalf of Tommy, myself, and Sherry.
All right, I will read this one out loud just so this is a new thing that developed this week. So in case you haven't heard, we can just be as transparent as possible. To Chancellor Frank, we write to you in a moment of profound consequence, not only for UCLA, but for the principles that define public higher education in a democratic society. The Trump administration's decision to suspend nearly $200 million in research funding to UCLA is an act of political retaliation. It is a deliberate effort to intimidate one of the nation's leading public institutions into submission. This unprecedented move threatens not only the research that saves lives and shapes futures, but the soul of the university itself. For decades, UCLA has stood as a pillar of intellectual courage, innovation, and public service. It is precisely because of our prominence and credibility that we are now being targeted. And it is precisely for those same reasons that you must not yield. The university must not allow itself to be complicit either through silence or accommodation with the politicized dismantling of academic freedom. The moment demands moral clarity and institutional resolve. Any effort to comply with or appease the conditions under which this funding is being withheld would signal not neutrality, but surrender. UCLA's memo, Fiat Lux, Let There Be Light, was not chosen for comfort. It was chosen as a charge to be a beacon in times of darkness, to pursue truth without fear, and to lead when it is most difficult. Now is precisely such a time, and future generations will ask whether we chose expedience or principle. The stakes extend beyond our campus. Other institutions are watching. Students are watching. The public is watching. And history will remember. UCLA must act with conviction befitting its mission and stature. Let us not dim our light in the face of political pressure and injustice. Let us instead shine more brightly and affirm, through word and action, that the pursuit of knowledge and justice cannot and will not be bargained away. With urgency, the Undergraduate Students Association Council of the University of California, Los Angeles.
Thank you, Tommy. Um, are there any questions or comments for Tommy, myself, or Sherry? Final call. Seeing that there are none, we'll be moving on for a vote. Can someone please motion for a vote? Yes, ma'am.
Motion to approve the letter concerning recent cuts to federal research funding.
A second.
Here are motions, Jay seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining. With the vote to 12 to 0, that letter is approved. We will now be moving on to our next agenda item, which is clarifying or report on clarification regarding judicial board appointments. Lorelai, I think this is yours, or if we have the motion.
Yeah, you don't have to motion. Basically, per like our conversations with Chief Justice Eli Sepulveda, there was an issue of incorrect appointments last year. So just to like state for the record, like basically what happened and like the appointments that were affected. I'm just going to read a quick statement, which is USAC would like to clarify the appointment and term lengths of two of our justices on the judicial board. Eli Sepulveda and Alessandra Lucia were appointed on August 6th of 2024 to serve as alternate justices. The role of alternate justice does not exist within the USA Constitution, the highest authority in the governance of USA. These appointments were made with the false notion that such a role existed with a one-year term as a result of limited language in the bylaws. For these reasons, USAC would like to clarify the record that Eli Sepulveda and Alessandra Lucia shall serve as justices through the 25-26 academic year to complete their two-year terms as determined by the USA Constitution. To prevent this mistake in the future, the internal vice president will present a bylaw change regarding these appointments to come before the Constitutional Review Committee and Council.
Thank you, Lorelai. And then I think that's something we can take offline, right, for the bylaw?
Yes, yeah, but just for the sake of minutes and like kind of redeeming what was a mistake last year with that language, just needed to kind of put that on the record. But yeah, we'll continue offline about kind of moving forward and reviewing what bylaws need to be changed.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Um, moving on, and then that's not a vote thing, right? Just moving on.
Yeah, just again stating for the record. So you're good.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Lorelai. We'll be now moving on to agenda item D, a letter concerning recent cuts to federal research funding to Governor Newsom. As again, on behalf of myself, Tommy, and Sherry. Um, Tommy, if you'd like to read this, I can also take this on.
Yes, I can read it. All right. To California Governor Gavin Newsom, we write to you as representatives of the UCLA student body in the wake of a deeply alarming and politically motivated decision by the Trump administration to suspend nearly $200 million in federal research funding to our university. This action is not about policy, it is about power. It is a retaliatory attempt to coerce a leading public institution into submission, an effort that undermines not only the integrity of UCLA, but the values that define California. Time and time again, our state has led where others have followed. We have been a model of progressive governance, scientific innovation, and moral courage in the face of federal hostility. Now we must lead again. California must not be bullied into complicity. We must not bend to a federal administration that treats research, education, and truth as negotiable. Instead, we urge you to stand with UCLA and affirm that California's public institutions will not be dictated to by political opportunists who fear the light of inquiry. Governor Newsom, we ask that you explore and champion state-level solutions that protect our institutions and their research missions. Whether through emergency state grants, partnerships with the private sector, or public bonds, California must demonstrate that its commitment to higher education and academic freedom does not hinge on the whims of a vindictive federal government. The stakes are not just financial, they are existential. This is about whether California will allow our universities to be weaponized in a national culture war, or whether we will once again chart our own course and offer the country a different vision. The students of UCLA, of California, and of America are watching, and history is watching too. We urge you to act swiftly and with conviction. Let California once again be the example the nation looks to when darkness falls. With resolve, the Undergraduate Students Association Council of the University of California, Los Angeles.
Thank you, Tommy. Are there any questions for the three of us? If there are not, we can move on for a vote. Can someone please motion for a vote? Yes, Ram.
Okay, motion to approve a letter concerning recent cuts to federal funding to Gavin Newsom.
I second.
Yeah.
Motions. Jaya seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining. With a vote to 12 to 0, that motion or that letter is approved. Now, thank you, everyone. We will be moving on to executive session. Tommy, can you please cut the YouTube live when you can?
Yeah, 1 second.
Before you do that, can you motion to enter?
Yes, sorry about that. Can someone motion to enter executive session, please?
Yeah, I got it. Motion to enter executive session at 10:27 p.m. on August 5th, 2025.
I second.
Tommy motions, Jaya seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. All abstaining. With a vote to 11 to 0, that is approved, and we will now enter executive session. And then, yeah, can you